All right. Good morning, everyone. Today's Friday, July 11th. I'm going to call the meeting of the Minnesota Supervised Release Board to order. And we'll start with a roll call of members. Member Christine Bray, member Andrew Larson,
Present.
member Cheryl Ramstead.
Here.
And member Joe Earhart is absent and excused, and Paul Schnell is present. And with that, we have 4 hearings that we're going to have today. And we'll get kicked off with the first one here and turn it over to Ms. Holmes Larson.
Good morning, everyone. Rebecca Holmes Larson, Executive Officer of Hearings and Release in the Supervised Release Board. We're here today to review Mr. Moises Kenny, who is present on video from the Minnesota Correctional Facility in Moose Lake. Mr. Kenny also has his advocate, Mr. Sanchez, participating today. Good to see you, Mr. Sanchez. Here with me at the Minnesota Department of Corrections Central Office is our Commissioner and Chair of the Supervised Release Board, Mr. Paul Schnell, and the additional board members that the Commissioner already introduced. Thank you. Our records indicate that on January 31st of 1998, Moises Kenny and his co-defendants were seen dragging the victim, Joshua James Christensen, into the kitchen of a house. Joshua had masking tape around his head. Kenny and his co-defendants assaulted Joshua Christensen by punching him, kicking him, and jumping on his back. Joshua then fell down the basement stairs and became unconscious. Joshua was then dragged from the house to a car. During the assault, he was also stabbed and had a foreign object inserted in his anus. On January 31st of 1998, St. Paul police located a vehicle with the victim, Joshua Christensen, lying in the back of the car. Paramedics pronounced the victim dead. An autopsy was performed on February 1st of 1998 and reported that the cause of death was exsanguination due to multiple sharp force injuries. The victim had stab wounds to his neck, chest, and abdomen. The victim suffered additional and severe blunt force traumatic injuries and sharp force injuries about the head, face, neck, trunk, and extremities, as well as tears to his insides. On February 19th of 1999, Moises Kenny was sentenced to a minimum of 30 years by Ramsey County District Court after having been found guilty of first-degree murder. Kenny was also found guilty of 2 counts of murder, second degree, and kidnapping, but did not receive a separate sentence for each of those counts. Today's review represents his initial review after serving approximately 27 years of incarceration. His parole eligibility date is May 26th of 2028. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board. Commissioner?
Good morning, Mr. Kenny. How are you today? Can you unmute on your side? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I'm nervous,
Okay.
but I'm okay. I'm just willing to be an open book today.
Okay, excellent. I'd like to start off by asking if you could just tell the board what it is you'd like to see happen as a result of today's meeting and why.
Yeah, I'd like to begin by I want to be able to start off by apologizing to Mr. Christensen's family and loved ones for taking Mr. Christensen from them, for all the pain and trauma that I had caused them, for robbing them of the life experiences with him, the moments, the talks, the sadness and the loss. I would also like to apologize to them to say sorry to them for for not apologizing to them at my sentencing. I have regret for a lot of things, and remorse for a lot of things back during that time. But not apologizing to them is right at the top of that list. And I've regretted it ever since because I wanted to. Um, I'm sorry for not apologizing to you. I also want to apologize for what I put Mr. Christensen through that night. He did not deserve my actions. He deserved to still be here today. Um, yeah, I'd also like to take this opportunity. I know this hearing is live, and this crime that I committed was affected a lot of people, and I think it would take a long time to name everybody that I know it affected. So I just want to apologize to everybody that it affected and changed their lives, and that it still affects to this day. I apologize to everybody. I'm deeply sorry. I would also like to share with you who I was at the time of my offense. For a few years after my offense, I had only seen that I was drunk and that I got out of control. But I had sought help and immersed myself into everything possible to find out how I could get to a point to treat somebody the way I did and to take somebody's life. And I was able to find out that a lot of things in my life had began when I was much younger. And I was able to connect the dots to my life, like beginning as a child. And as I go through these things and talk about them, in no way am I using these things as an excuse, because there is no excuse for the way I acted. It's just an explanation to how I got there. As a child, I witnessed a lot of violence towards my family. As a young child, and even when things got a little bit old, when I became even around 11 or 12 years old, I started witnessing violence in my home, even towards my mother. I started witnessing severe domestic assaults. When I tried to even help my mother out, they turned towards me. In the neighborhoods I lived in, I seen a lot of violence. I began to see the light. I began to see life as feeling very unsafe. And I responded in such because I wanted to feel safe. And I would often see when I seen other people that were looked up to as being tough, I told myself at the early age of like 12 years old that that's how I wanted to be perceived. And I did things for other people to see me like that. I also began to worry about how people perceived me. I never wanted to be perceived as somebody that somebody could pick on, or be perceived as like a punk or being soft. And I lived like this for a long time. And then when I began to drink at around 17 years old, all those thoughts I had were always heightened when I drank. I had a lot of problems when I began drinking. I would have blackouts. I would I would pick fights with people. I didn't think about people's rights. Uh, and I always would go do things above and beyond to try to prove myself. And I had issues with my drinking, and I continued to live like that until January 31st, 1998. The night of this crime I commit. That night, I chose to drink after being sober for 3 months because of my issues with alcohol. I chose to drink when I shouldn't have. I chose to go to a party that I shouldn't have been at. I chose to sodomize Mr. Christensen with a broom handle. I assaulted him and I murdered him. I'm deeply sorry for how I treated him. I still can't believe how I acted that night. As I reflect on my actions that night, how I continue to reflect on my actions that night, I can think I I've been able to always think of how I could prevented everything. If I wouldn't have drank, that wouldn't have happened. That night, as I began to worry about how other people thought about me, I could have left. When the assault when I started the fight that night, I could have stopped it. When things started to progress even more, I could have, if I couldn't have stopped it, I could have got him help. I regret all of my actions and my inactions. And I know I can't change them. And I'm deeply sorry. Um, when I got to prison after I was convicted, I went to prison with some vague goals to try to do something different with my life because I had a lot of guilt and shame for my actions. As soon as I got to prison, um, a lot of that changed for me because of all the violence I had seen around me. I immediately got pulled into the criminal culture. And for me, it was a lot of out of safety and not even be able to see the light of day at that time. I wasn't caring about the prison rules. I was only caring about the rules of the culture at that, just to fit in. It wasn't until about 2006, we had a guest speaker in Stillwater, a lady by the name of Mary Johnson. And she had a young man that actually lived right down the tier from me named O'Shea Israel. As she spoke, she was speaking about the day she found out her son was murdered, and then she talked about the days and the months and the years that it had ensued, about her sadness and the pain and the trauma that she went through. And the whole time she spoke, I was thinking about Mr. Christensen's family and loved ones and what they had been going through, and 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 it really had made me emotional hearing this. And then she got to the point where she started talking about some of the healing she was going through. And then she had reached over and she started speaking about the healing she was going through with Mr. O'Shea Israel. And I didn't know that he was the one that had killed her son. And O'Shea began to speak about the healing he was going through with his family. At this point, I was locked up almost 8 years, and I didn't know anything at this time about how to do any type of healing. I had thought, man, going into prison, I just had to deal with my time and my consequences And this was a turning point for me on how to do something with my remorse. I decided I was going to do something different with my time. I still didn't know how to I didn't change my life completely at this time, but it was a turning point for me. But within about 2 years later, um, something pivotal happened for me, and it was the hardest time of my life, but it was the best time as I look back. Um, a whole bunch of things that happened. I did go to segregation, but my kids were going through a horrible process. So were my siblings. But I had also came to the conclusion that criminal lifestyle that I was involved in, like I just couldn't stand being around it anymore. Like it seemed so pointless to me. It was irritating to me. Um, that pain of staying the same and I just couldn't do it anymore. Um, I decided I was going to do something different with my life, and I completely made that change. Um, and it wasn't just that. I had seen like all the pain that I caused so many people, and it wasn't just the pain of my past. It was the pain I was still seeing people going through at that time in like 2000, late 2007, early 2008, what they were still going through at that time. And it completely changed me. Like I immersed myself into every program that Stillwater had to offer. Um, every program, every group, every class. And what it did for me was like it taught me how to start reflecting in a healthy way instead of dragging me down. And it it gave me it taught like in my past, I thought I had friends, but it really taught me how to build relationships. It taught me how to start mending and healing with people. It it taught me how people were challenging me and calling me on my BS. We It taught me how to start building in my community and how to give back. Um, it built a foundation for me for life. I My education was like ended up being a powerful part of me because I learned how to start processing information, not just in education, but for life. Um, it it truly changed who I was. I only got in trouble one time after that, and it was I think in 2013, and I got LOP. I have not been in trouble since. Um, and and it's I've been able to really do a lot of things with my life since then in a positive way. Um, and the last thing I really want to share with you is that is the reason I know today, man, how I know I will never affect nobody in a in a negative way ever again is because it, because like my heart and my soul will never allow it. My character is different than it was 27 years ago. Um, I do not allow myself to be in those types of situations that I was in 27 years ago. I put myself around the right people, um, the right situations, the right circumstances now that are pro-social, and and I'm just not that person anymore. It's like night and day. Um, yeah,
Can I ask a couple of questions just in
yeah,
follow-up?
yes, please.
So, and I really appreciate you walking us through that history and some of the change and the points of inflection points along that journey. And I just want to, I think, ask just a series of questions um, that as I imagine myself, if I were Christensen family, and I might be these would be questions I would be asking myself. And some of them I don't know what the answers would be, or if there even is good answers, but you know, there was a point in time when this offense was happening where this was not like an instant thing, right? It wasn't about a fight that broke out and boom, there was something that happened. It went on over a period of time. And in fact, Mr. Christensen died probably alone in his car, right? He was, by all indication, not necessarily, had not necessarily passed away prior to that. And so there's this question, if I was in their shoes, I would be asking, you know, and I understand you're intoxicated and all those things, but I think as you pointed out in one of your letters, and which I appreciated, you said, you know, look, that's not an excuse. A lot of people have problems with alcohol and don't kill somebody, right? And a lot of people have a lot of trauma. And again, those are all things that are real. I don't want to diminish any of those, and you didn't either. But the question is, how do you go from torturing someone over the course of hours to the change of who you are today? And you just described the sense of your character, your soul, your being is fundamentally different. How does that happen?
So how do I go from that person that night to who I am today?
Yeah.
Honestly, because knowing what I caused and the amount of pain that I caused so many people is like it tears me up inside. That's really what changed me the most. Knowing in my past, I worried so much about trying to protect myself, you know, in this like defensive survival mode that I lived in, that it was so hard for me to see other people. That's so far gone. But for so long now, like when in my reflection and being able to see everybody else, that's what's changed me is reflecting and seeing the pain of everybody else and how I affected their lives. Not just then, but how it continues to affect their lives continually.
Mm-hmm.
And with Mr. Christensen's family and loved ones and friends and his community, like I don't know what they go through personally. I gotta assume what they go through. You know, like with all the programming I do, you know, we do a lot of insight. And you know, so I'm always assuming what they go through. And that's difficult to know. It's very difficult on my heart to know. And that's changed who I am. And it's made me, and it's got me to a point where I know I can never hurt nobody again. I don't even want to hurt nobody with my words.
Let me, so a couple of questions come out of that.
Yeah.
You talked about the fact that, you know, you use the, you know, the gift of imagination to try to understand what the impact of your stuff might be on people in real terms. Is that right?
Well, not just that. I've lost people too, and I've lost people in my family to murder. So I do have the empathy.
Okay.
Like, and not only that, I've put myself in their shoes. Like, it's very, I've mentally and emotionally put myself in Joshua's shoes, Mr. Christensen's. I put myself in the mother's shoes, the father's, his siblings. I did it with my own children. I did it with everybody. And imagine what each one of them has went through all the way through this whole process since that night.
Let me ask you this, if, and again, I'm just throwing this out there into the universe. If the opportunity ever existed for you to meet with members of the Christensen family to both hear and discuss and talk about what happened and the implications and that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
is that something you'd be interested or willing to do?
I would definitely do it. I've actually thought about that for many years with with me being involved in RJ all these years. I've always wondered if that would be a possibility. You know, every week sitting in RJ 101, we see these victim offender dialogues. And so every time we're watching these on these films, or we went to get guest speakers when we've seen them, I've always wondered, because we've seen good ones, we've seen bad ones, and I've always wondered if I would have that opportunity. But I also, I know, like, there's not always like if I was to get it, I would just want to give them whatever they would need for their healing or answers, because I know forgiveness isn't always the answer out of a victim offender dialogue. Sometimes it's just answers.
Right.
But I would want to give them whatever they would need.
I appreciate that. And I don't know what willingness there would be. Can you talk about the last time, just in terms of, you talked about, 2013 was your last discipline or loss of privileges, which, is not necessarily discipline, but, there's this, some might have, and again, going back to my own sense of like thinking about what I might think about if I were in the shoes or the position of a family. How would we know if Moises Kenny were to be released and encounter somebody who was less than hospitable, rude, cut you off in traffic, whatever it was, that you don't lose it and use violence and use that sense of not wanting to be a punk, as you put it earlier, or that the things that the strategy you used to manage your life at the time was to be bigger, badder, tougher than anybody else. So how do we know that wouldn't be what you would do? And I guess just to tie that to your life today, can you think of a time in the recent past where you've had to manage a situation where even on the inside there was a situation, a person, a circumstance where it was harder to maybe swallow that? Because I think this is life, right? Life happens to all of us. And how do you manage situations where those types of frustrations occur?
Yeah, I actually had a situation like this just a few weeks ago. Um, but I actually being in prison, these situations actually happen quite often.
Yeah.
But but I made a decision a long time ago. I don't know. I would say I made two decisions a long time ago. Um, One was I no longer cared what other people thought about me. the other one was violence was no longer an option under no circumstance. And I've stood on that. So, but the situation that happened a few weeks ago, I was actually talking to somebody else that I was trying to talk him down from he was trying to redial on the phone because we got a rule in the unit. And while I was talking to him, somebody else came up that didn't know what was going on. And this guy, it was a newer guy, decided to kind of use me as the guinea pig and kind of do some indirect threats at me. And when I tried to explain it to him, it just he got escalated. When I see things get escalated and I know I can no longer talk to the person, I remove myself immediately. I always try to communicate with people first. But violence is no longer an option for me. And I'm not just saying that because it sounds good. That is how I have been living my life. And so I moved myself immediately. And I will continue to live my life like that because it's not worth getting in trouble. I do not want to live with the consequences of it, whether it's to get in trouble, to hurt somebody, me getting hurt, or any of the type of consequences that come with it. So I've done that many a times, and I don't care what people think about me. You know, some guys I've lost friendships over it, but I don't care because that's who I am. And you know, some guys in prison look at it like I'm being soft. I don't care. That's who I am.
So what can you talk a little bit about, you know, the things that you are doing, the things that you are involved with, where you are not just doing well yourself, but where you're trying to help other people along the way. Can you talk about some of those things and what you've learned through, like, with peer mentor stuff or whatever it may be?
Yeah, that's actually where I've kind of like found my purpose. Um, when I yeah, for me, like I do a lot of like co-facilitating and mentoring, and sometimes it's through peer recovery work. I get called upon to do that when guys are struggling, whether it's with addiction, or trying to get away from the criminal lifestyle. Um, just like this last weekend, there's a guy he was really wanting to use because of some struggles with his father, and I got called to go sit down with him for a couple hours. Um, and because I got to sit down with him and kind of de-escalate and calm him down, you know, he didn't go use. I really find like I find gratification in being able to do that. It also keeps me on my path, being able to sit down with guys and do that. Um, it and also too, like when I sit down and spend time with guys, like it reminds me of the people that were there for me when I was trying to change my life. Like like yeah, like I feel grateful and not and there's even much more to it at that point because uh, I think I said something about it earlier, and if I didn't, I meant to. When I began doing this type of work, I began to do it because when I was like trying to heal and mend things with a lot of people, there were so many people that I was not able to heal and mend things with. So when I was facilitating and mentoring, that was my way to pay it forward with the people that I couldn't. It just became even more. It became personable. It became a part of my foundation. became part of who I was. And I built a lot of good friendships and relationships along the way. And and yeah.
So talk a little bit about, you've done many things in the course of your time, and that's obvious in terms of the record and the different things that we see here. Talk about, like, you have this 30 years of mandatory minimum, but if you could write your ticket, what would it look like? What's the pathway look like in your view, and what thoughts have you given um to wanting to move forward and whatever that looks like?
Um, yeah, yeah, I've, I've actually kind of been speaking to some of the staff here about that for a while now. I, I, I would like to begin my process, um, by trying to earn my way back to the community, beginning with a 18-month transfer to Red Wing. And the reason I'm asking for Red Wing is because I've been working at my electrical career for almost 7 years now, and I'm about close to 500 hours away from taking my master's license exam, and that's the only facility that I'd be able to take it at. Plus, recently I had acquired my special boilers license, and I could take my second class license at Red Wing too. Plus, Red Wing is also the only facility where I could keep my continuing education credits active for my electrical journeyman's license, my special boilers license, and my peer recovery license. Um, and um, and also I've been speaking with a guy named Alan from the Redemption Project, and they don't offer that here at Moose Lake. But he told me if I get to a facility that offers that, I know that Red Wing also offers that. He told me he could get me connected with a couple of their mentors. They would work with me there and post uh, uh, work release. So that's what I would be asking for.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna turn the floor here to Mr. Sanchez, and we thank you for being here today and support of Mr. Kenny. Uh, we'll I would open the floor to you just to talk a little bit about your experiences with Mr. Kenny and what you've seen in him, and then we'll open the floor so that the board can ask questions of you, Mr. Kenny, or Mr. Sanchez, and go from there. But with that, again, I want to say thank you for being here today, and just I would open the floor to you to provide whatever information or insights you have.
Thank you, Mr. Snell. Thank you for having me here this morning, and to the rest of the staff there. For a little info, I started at Stillwater in 1992 as a CO1. I retired in 2014 as a CO2. And in that time, I conducted many classes, just as our paths kind of crossed that way. I did a lot of classes with staff. I actually did classes for some of I have to get used to the term IPs. Back then it was offenders. So excuse me if I fall back to that.
Sorry.
But I did a class with the IPs called Building Character Traits. And that class really introduced me a lot into the insights and thoughts of the IPs. Especially, I was on the security squad for a number of years, and I always really put myself out there, standing in the rotunda every day, talking to the guys on a personal level. And so I really got to learn those guys. And I got to know him as I did with a lot of other offenders. And I learned what his journey was going to be about. And every day we would talk, almost every day we would talk. And I kind of grew up in the neighborhood like he did. So I knew the thought process. I've had close family and friends sometimes who are incarcerated. So I knew the thought. And watching him grow, and I've heard a lot of lines, heard a lot of thoughts from some of the guys that I would talk to. And I would just kind of listen and say, okay, but you got to stay on the journey. Mr. Kenny always did. He'd have a setback once in a great while, but it wasn't anything really big, but he always stayed on the journey. He was always trying to find class and trying to be a peacemaker within the walls of that institution. And as time went by, I saw him grow and grow and grow. And I kind of took an interest in him, and we would talk more and more about his classes and what he should do. And actually, I learned from him as well. Working behind the walls can really jade a person. I'm sure you know about that, Mr. Snell. And I retired in 2014. We kept in contact via the IP phone system and still bouncing questions off each other. Saw him grow and saw him grow. And talked about the crime, if I may. There's no crime out there that's not heinous or not bad. There's no doubt about that. But when we talked about the sodomizing of that, I said, do you realize where you're at that time? I said, hurt people are hurt people. You did what you could. And that's just to basically humiliate that person because you were feeling the humiliation at that time from the other guys in the group. Is it right? Of course not. Two wrongs don't make it right. But at the same time, I can understand where he's at. Certainly no justification. And I think it kind of hit home for him as to what he had really done, how he felt the humiliation himself, how he felt the hurt himself. And I'm hoping that brings him a little bit of peace because he still struggles with it today. If I may say, having worked behind the walls myself, you know, I fought a lot to keep my sense of humanity and compassion as well. And along with that, you know, you have anger issues, trust issues. Some people have PTSD and whatnot. So it's hard to go home from that job and not let all this stuff happen to you. Well, I still have trust issues, trust me. And I said, but this I know. I really trust that Mr. Kenny will go on in the name of God, in the name of Josh, to continue to prosper and getting better and endeavor for not only for himself, for the betterment of himself, but for the people around him. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the work you did here and that you continue to do in support of Mr. Kenny. And I really appreciate your honesty about just what you see in him and just the nature of this work. And so I appreciate that. With that, I would just open this to the floor to members of the board with any questions for Mr. Kenny or Mr. Sanchez.
Mr. Kenny, I have more of a comment than a question. First of all, I think you've done a great job of wrestling with your demons and trying to help other people. You made the comment, you made two decisions a while ago. And one was, I no longer care what people think of me. And that startles me just a little. I think I know what you meant, but I think there is a point where we do need to care what other people think. So it's just a comment. You don't, that's all.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, please.
When I said that, I meant I don't care about what people in that criminal lifestyle think about me, because I do care what my children think about me, my bosses, my peers, and that are around me that are living that we feed off each other, that we care about each other, care about what Mr. Sanchez thinks about me, my caseworker, you know, the people that my pastor, my friends, my support system. You know, I never want to let those people down. You know, I care about what they think about me. That's what I meant.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. That's what I thought, but I thought it was worth some clarification.
Yeah.
Just related to this, can you talk a little bit about, you talked about at the time of the crime, this was about kind of maintaining your status or ensuring your status as not being the punk, not, being the guy that people should be afraid of. And that when you came in, that some of that orientation remained. And for a host of reasons, it's not always an easy environment either. But when you started to, what did you notice when you put out, and this is going to be oversimplification, when you put out good stuff to other people about you and about the way you were living, what did you see change in the way you were being treated?
Can you clarify that? I'm kind of,
So just that sense of how did what you put out into the world change the way you were treated by people?
you talking about back?
No,
Back
not as change started to happen,
Oh,
as
yeah.
you became more positive. What happened? What did that look like?
Oh, yeah. That was powerful. Because I was scared. I was actually scared. Um, like when I decided to put a different view of who I was out, like I really thought that, like I had really perceived like that I had like enemies and people were gonna attack me when I changed. I was, excuse my language, but like I was nervous and scared, and when people seen that I was serious, those people that I was nervous about, like they came up and like they were congratulating me and they supported it, but they just needed to see that it was true, that it was consistent, and 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 then there was other people that they I didn't know that they wanted to do the same thing, and it gave them courage to do something else with their life.
Yeah.
And I didn't
And
know
I-
that neither. And I didn't know that neither.
Yeah. And I suspect what happened there is exactly the reason you have Mr. Sanchez sitting by your side here today, is that what you put out comes back to you in support and in relationships and in positive stuff. So I appreciate that. Other questions?
I do have a question as well, and also an observation, very similar to what Commissioner Schnell just said. Some of the most striking letters of support within the packet were actually from some of the sergeants and people who work in the jail. That I think that speaks volumes, because as a former corrections officer, like I know how that is, and I know like you have a pretty good BS meter. It's a requirement of the job. So for officers to put that information out there, I think that does speak well. My question for you. So you put together a really, really robust packet and a lot of description about the past and everything that led up to it. What the piece of it that stood out to me, and when you were, the section is titled "Dealing with My Crime and Its Ripple Effect." Okay, and you talk about the following day, the day immediately after the offense when you woke up. And when I originally read it, I really wasn't sure how to take it. And I'll give you some explanation for it, because in it, you said when you woke up, you found out someone had called you, said that Mr. Christensen died. You couldn't believe what had happened. You got emotional. And you talk about how you immediately had a deep sense of remorse for what he went through. You immediately thought about his family. So I actually wasn't sure how to take that, and if that was just lip service or if it's something that you've I know through the restorative justice and all the stuff you've done, I have no doubt that that is something that has kind of been developed. But is there a different level maybe of kind of what that understanding or what that reaction was in the moment versus now that you've had 27 years to kind of work through that? Is there a difference between the two? I mean, does my question make sense to you?
No, it makes a lot of sense because I remember that day. And I remember that morning. And I also, because that morning, because it was actually the following day. Because when I woke up that day, it was actually the next day when I got the phone call. And I don't know why, because during that day, it's not like I wasn't blind to what had happened the night before. But I was kind of like, it was, I didn't know for sure if he was dead. And I think there was that part of me hoping that he wasn't. But then when I got that phone call and knowing for sure that he was dead, I do remember I was sitting in my room myself, and I went through a lot more emotions than what I had put there, and I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. Like I said, I was struck by like that in that morning, the brevity of the situation that you would describe, remembering, thinking like the impact that it had had on the family. And so I was just wondering, like, I certainly understand that as part of your growth process, you know, going through restorative justice and some of those other programs, that would certainly come. And like, and maybe that's what I'm asking. Like, is there a greater depth of the understanding?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, no, there's definitely a greater understanding. I think that's why I put something in there along the line about I thought I understood the depth of it then.
Okay.
Compared, I think that's what I put in there because I thought I understood like the loss and the pain, but as I like every week I sit in our RJ 101 now, and we have these talks, and with the other participants, or we're watching these films, and the more realization I come up with, like I realize how much deeper it is, or as you know, with Mr. Christensen's family, like what more they could be going through, or guys are in the room talking about, you know, a murder that happened in their family, you know, 35 years ago, and how their family is still struggling, or, you know, even conversations I have with my children, how they're still struggling to this day. And then I got to put everybody into, you know, what they're still struggling with. You know, it just didn't happen 27 years ago. People are still struggling. And I get it. Yeah.
All right. No, appreciate that. You have answered my question.
All right.
Mr. Kenny, when I hear you talk about your crime and the before and after mindset that you had, you seem to blame alcohol and being intoxicated for what happened and what you did to Josh. And yet when I read your comprehensive risk assessment that was done fairly recently, it sounds like you were thinking about beating him up even before you and this woman went out to get food to bring back. You said you looked around the room and he was the only one who wasn't part of a gang and you decided you were going to pick a fight with him. So then you were the one who taped his mouth shut. Were you also the one who carried him in the house with his mouth taped shut and threw him down the stairs? I see some minimization. You said that this was mob mentality and they couldn't help themselves. Again, it sounds like you're minimizing. So I'm just wondering if you could explain what your role was from the time you got back with that food. You started a fight in the back, in the snow with Josh, and it escalated. People inside came out. You admitted that you got the tape from inside the truck or car and taped his mouth. And what was your role thereafter?
Yeah, I mean, this whole crime is my fault.
Yeah.
From the beginning until the end. Yeah, and so I started the fight with Mr. Christensen, and when I had mentioned the mob mentality, here let me start back with your question. When me and him were fighting, and the other guys had jumped in. When I said the mob mentality, I had said that because it felt like we were feeding off each other. Like I was trying to one up them, what they were doing. And like if they were kicking, I began kicking. And that's what I had meant. And
But you were the one who taped his mouth shut. Went in the truck or car and got the tape and taped his mouth shut.
yeah, I don't remember where the tape had came from, but yeah, I had grabbed the tape.
Did you carry him inside also with his mouth taped shut and all
Yeah,
bruised from? Did you do that? Did you do that? Did you, not we, did you do that?
I did.
You carried him inside.
Yeah.
And did you throw him down the steps?
No, I didn't throw him down the steps.
I also am concerned, Mr. Kenny, because it sounds like you had several enlightening events and yet your conduct continued. You said that Mary Johnson in 2006 spoke at Stillwater and that really impacted you. And I understood that. You said seeing her son's murder was a turning point for you. Do you remember using those words?
Well, I said hearing her talk about it and
Was a
thinking about
turning
her
point.
and hearing her talk about it, it made me think about what Mr. Christensen's family I went through, and the healing. I knew then being a part of like the RJ and the healing was where I needed to be.
My point is your infractions within the institution continued thereafter.
Yeah, I had one more. Or two
Was
more,
there
yeah.
also one in 2023?
No.
No, must have been a typo because it was 2013 was your last infraction.
Yeah.
And that was when you were found with medication on you that was,
Yeah.
okay.
2013.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny.
That was the one I had loss of privileges for.
Thank you.
And can I respond too about the alcohol too? When I had spoke to Mary Spaniel about the alcohol, I actually didn't even want to bring that up during my risk assessment, because I didn't want to blame alcohol for the night of my crime, and she was the one that had brought it up, and because when I was in treatment, anytime I had brought up alcohol for my crime, I would always get grilled because it sounded like I was trying to minimize my crime. And after a while, I understood where I began to get it because I chose to drink, knowing I had issues. So I knew I couldn't control myself. So that was my fault. That and when Mary Spaniel asked me about the alcohol, I did tell her I didn't bring that up when she was asking about the contributing factors about my crime. And she was just like, well, that was a contributing factor. I said, yeah, it was, but I didn't want to blame it on the alcohol. And then I told her, I said, but I do know that if I wasn't drinking, that the rest of the crime probably wouldn't have happened.
I see that as inconsistent with the fact that you brought up in this hearing just a short while ago, when asked about the crime and your role in it, that you had fallen off the wagon, that you'd been sober for 3 months, again, blaming the alcohol that was the responsible. So I don't hear that you were trying to stay away from blaming alcohol. I heard that you tried to do that today. I don't have any further questions.
All right.
Anything else from members of the board? Hearing none. Mr. Kenny, before the board begins deliberation and discussion about next steps, I want to briefly open the floor to you for any final comment. So I would just open that up to you.
Yeah, I would just like to again apologize to Mr. Christensen's family again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I put you through. I'm sorry for what I put Mr. Christensen through. I want to apologize to everybody else that I affected. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank everybody that's that stood by me and encouraged me and challenged me through this journey. I would also like to ask my support system that's down there to raise their hand, so that way the board knows who my support system is. And I would just like to thank the board for this opportunity today. And that's it.
Thank you. And at this time, I'm going to close the discussion. During board discussion and deliberation, the board will not entertain questions or allow interruptions. And with that, I would open this to the board for discussion about what we heard and next steps.
Point of clarification. My understanding is he's not even eligible for parole for another 3 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
May of 2028.
Right. So really today is really more about like, what does it look like between now and then?
Or do we continue it beyond that?
Or we continue beyond then. Yep. I just want to say that I'm struck by there's just that it's, as we've talked about, it's hard to wrap your head around the gratuitous nature of the violence that happened at that time, and one-upsmanship, the fact that there was a point at which I think Mr. Kenny himself described Josh being in the house and crying, and obviously probably can only assume afraid and all of those types of things. And yet continued without regard for the obvious vulnerability that he was facing at that time. And then at the same time, I'm struck by the fact that Mr. Kenny acknowledges responsibility for the fact that, but for him, that at any given time, either by virtue of his choices or his actions, that he could have shifted the direction that this entire thing happened. And I am appreciative of the fact that he sees and acknowledges that, that today. There is, at some level, little doubt that he has done a lot by comparison to the many, and has been, has been a leader within in the facility, and is regarded as low risk. But while I certainly don't want to be in a position to ever speak for the people who are left behind by virtue of his crime, I'm left with that sense that at least Mr. Kenny feels that either obligation or willingness to give the victims an opportunity to speak to whatever it is they would need to speak to. And I'm appreciative of that. I don't even know if that's viable or possible, but I'm intrigued by that.
My reaction was a little bit like Andrew's when I read all the support letters from staff, and I thought staff are really good at detecting bullshit, and they had a lot of praise. And so that was a big deal to me. I have a concern about what's going to happen when he gets out into the real world, where people are pissy and mean, and he feels like a drink, and that would be my concern. And so having said that, I think we have no option. We deny parole, but I'd like to see us move him toward getting out. And I guess for me, that would be step down now, because I think he'll do fine in prison. I want to see what he does when he's out. So I'll just make a motion, deny parole, and review in, I guess, 3 years, but maybe have DOC consider a step down process to minimum at least.
Is there, so there is a motion. Is there a second? I'll second it for purposes of discussion, at least to have, to be able to talk about how, what the thoughts are of other people, and how if this is on track or not. So there's a motion and a second, discussion related to that.
Well, so for discussion purposes, I'm actually in support of step down model. Exactly what that looks like, I guess, is the point of the discussion. My only, I guess probably the reason I didn't second it is just the uncertainty as to, is it 3 years before we see him again, or maybe we do. Do we do a paper review again in a period of time? Because my assumption is if it's just a straight 3 years, there's no really opportunity for us to review for the possibility of work release or any of those sorts of things, and kind of that true progressive nature. So I throw that out for discussion purposes. And maybe if others are in agreement or whatever, maybe there's an opportunity for some amendment. But that's just kind of my thought. But I don't. I think he's done a lot of good stuff. He is deemed low risk based upon the assessment. Certainly, Member Ramstead raised some concerns about some of the perceived use of kind of alcohol as a scapegoat. I didn't quite get the same, but I certainly understand where she's coming from, because I too heard it. But I am in support of moving in the direction, certainly.
So let me add a layer onto that, because I agree, because I'm thinking about here the whole notion of how do we make sure that that as we think about the impacts of this, that should they wish to, that we make sure that the victims have a place at the table, so to speak, to provide some level of input, which might be then better if he was seen in 24 months or 28 months or something like that, where at least then victims can come back in and have an opportunity for input should they wish to do that. And frankly, just based on what Mr. Kenny has talked about, I'd like to at least maybe even reach out to them if we can, and just to see what interest they may have in trying to explore some level of discussion during the course of the next 24, 28, 36 months, whatever this ends up being. And so I think that those would be some of the things that I would look at. And I know that we have some things to talk about relative to placement. I know he wants to go to Red Wing. It seems like everybody we've been talking to wants to go to Red Wing. And as I understand, but there's X number of beds there and those sorts of things. Plus, I'm just mindful of the fact that that Mr. Kenny has been locked up for 27 years. Really, the vast majority of his adult life has been in prison, in custody, and based on that, he has perhaps not had as many chances to transition. And so I think to what I appreciate about the motion is that you would like to see some level of step down progression and let the team work on where and how that can happen, and certainly weigh the interests of Mr. Kenny in that process, and where those interests can be best met. Because I think in the end, we want him to be in a place where that can aid his success into the future. So I don't know, Member Brave, how you feel about some of this conversation. And
Yeah, I'm not married to when he comes back.
Okay.
I'm more married to the idea that he starts progressing. And I have to say, I thought much like you did, Cheryl, that blaming thing with alcohol, so I get what you're saying. One comment I would make is, while he's done a lot of checking the boxes, I'm not sure I hear that it's really affected his mental framework or his thought processes with respect to the crime or the use of alcohol. And I like your idea of being able to get further input as to how, if there is a meeting, that would go and what the input would be. Because I think the victim, given what the victim went through, we need to continue to take the family input, or at least offer them the opportunity. So I would like to see a 2-year continuance, and at that point, have him come back for a review. And at that point, we would urge the or we would encourage, do whatever it takes to make it happen, that he meet with the victim's family if they are agreeable, and that we get that input.
I think that would be fabulous. I think along the way, just having met, many of us have, but having met Mary Johnson and prior to her passing, it just really powerful, and I can see where that would be influential and just what that can mean. Not by way of forgiveness, but as Mr. Kenny pointed out, just at least to give people who are left behind the opportunity to get whatever they need from that process. So, Chris, you're comfortable
I'm
with that
comfortable
and
with that.
modification. So really, it's just to restate kind of where we are would be to deny parole, not grant a date today, obviously. Continue for 24 months and direct that the facility follow kind of the direction of moving Mr. Kenny in a way forward that tests transition and change as we go forward, and certainly to include Mr. Kenny in that. And then we would also ask that our victim services and restorative justice folks explore what may be possible around a victim offender dialogue, should that be something that they would be interested in, to allow for that input as you described. Am I missing anything that, and beyond that, just the obvious of remaining discipline-free and, continue positive programming and so forth, and working on release plan, but.
Point
So,
of clarification.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
mean
that's
to
right.
interrupt you. To test the transition, could it be a transfer to a similar facility as opposed to minimum? I mean, could we leave that up to the people at the institution
Absolutely.
to
It could-
decide whether it's to
Another medium.
yeah, because that would test the transitional, nature of his adjustment as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and so I think though the range of possibilities that the team could look at are there, and in both in terms of that testing the transition and his ability to manage transition, but what programs and services he may need that could be beneficial going forward.
Well, do you have a real problem with moving to minimum if there's a place open? I mean, that's more what I would like to see. I think he could move to medium again and do fine. I'm more interested in, as he progresses out, what's that gonna look like? I feel like it should be left to the institution and their perspective is programming and what would be most appropriate for him. I don't feel like we're in a position at this point. We usually do say we'd like to see him go. He hasn't served his minimum. Those cases in which we've done so have typically been cases where the minimum's been met.
Or we've done some step down, like in this phase where they would start to do transition in this process. I mean, the benefit, and I would just say that, and the program review team at the facility would be the one to, I think, work with him. It sounds like, in looking at a lot of this, they're talking about the fact that certainly they see the direction he wants to go. And I don't think, as I read through, didn't seem as though they had major concerns, but I think recognizing the role and voice of the board here. But I think we can certainly look at that. I do think that the benefit of testing in a minimum environment is at least he is still at one of the facilities and can be brought back in should there become any kinds of concerns on the part of staff. But I think the program review team could look at that and really develop that transitional plan for us to consider.
And I'll just say they did. I mean, they did look at it, I thought, and they gave two options. And one was to begin the move to minimum. And if the board doesn't want to do that, then keep him in
Moose Lake.
medium and keep him at Moose Lake. So,
Well,
So
just for clarification, Cheryl, you're not necessarily opposed to it if the prison facility people, if they're in alignment, like you're not necessarily opposed to it, but you're not necessarily saying, no, this has to happen. It's a little more discretionary on the part of the prison folks.
That's right.
Am I understanding
That's
that
right.
right? Okay,
That's
fair
right,
enough.
Andrew.
Fair
That's
enough.
exactly my position. Well, can I do this then? The motion was to begin to move him to step down. And so if I'll just clarify, and then if there isn't a second, you could do a different motion. Mine would be deny parole and begin to move him toward minimum, continue for 24 months, and he interacts possibly with the victims, maybe not, but we hear from them again and he comes back. So that would be, I just would like that to be my motion.
And I would support that just based on what I see in some of the in the PRT notes here. I would support that as a second. And so we do have a motion and a second relative to that general direction. Now, obviously, anything that would change would certainly be subject to review internally by staff as well as by by us if there was some type of really fundamental shift or change in his progress. So we do have a motion and a second. So with that, I'm going to call for a vote to the motion. Board Member Bray,
Yes.
Board Member Larson,
Yes.
Board Member Ramstead,
No.
and Schnell votes yes. The motion prevails. So, Mr. Kenny, you've had a chance to hear the range of deliberation and the discussion. By a 3-1 vote, you will be making a recommendation to the program review team to initiate some conversations with you and looking at where programming and beds space may be available to kind of meet your interests and needs as we go forward. I would encourage you to continue the work that you're doing and take what you heard today and make the most of that and go from there. And we will talk with our restorative justice folks about what may be possible relative to victim engagement. Any questions about that?
No, I thank you, and I did hear your concerns, and I'll work on those.
Thank you. Good luck to you. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
All right. Are we flipping to a different? Yeah, we're going to be moving to a different facility here, so we'll need a second.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there, we'll be with you in just a minute.
Just making sure my mic worked.
Yep, we gotcha.
Thank you.
All right, for those who are watching, our next review will involve Mr. Francisco Dominguez Ramirez. We'll be on that review in just a moment.
Is there an interpreter? Is there an interpreter?
Mr. Dominguez, can you hear us there?
I can hear you, Commissioner. Yeah, I can hear you guys perfectly.
All right. Yeah, we're good to go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Rebecca Holmes Larson, Director of Humans and Release in the Supervised Release Board. We're here today to review Francisco Dominguez Ramirez, who's present on video from the Minnesota Correctional Facility in Faribault. We also have his advocate, Caddy Frink, present on video as well. Here with me at the Minnesota Department of Corrections Central Office is our Commissioner and Chair of the Supervised Release Board, Mr. Paul Schnell, along with board members Christine Bray, Cheryl Ramstead, and member Andrew Larson on the screen with us. Our records indicate that on April 24th of 1995, Francisco Dominguez Ramirez and a co-defendant went to the residence of Hector Manuel Vasquez and shot and killed him with a handgun. On February 2nd of 1996, Mr. Dominguez Ramirez was sentenced to life by Dakota County District Court after having been found guilty of aid, abet, first-degree murder. Today's review represents his second review after serving approximately 29 and a half years of incarceration. His parole eligibility date is February 1st of 2026. Thank you. I'll turn this matter over to the board. Commissioner.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to see you
Okay.
again.
Likewise. Your beard's a little longer since the last time I've seen you, and it's probably also a little grayer.
A lot whiter than it was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to start out today by asking you to tell the board what it is you'd like to see happen as a result of today's meeting.
I would like for us to take into account all the changes I have made in my life. You know, I'm not the 19-year-old kid that I was before. I shouldn't say kid, adult that I was when the crime took place. From day one of my incarceration, I made up my mind to, I got two options. I can either stay with the troublemakers or I can make something of myself. So I decided to get involved in the education department as much as possible. If you can look at my record, you can see all the accomplishments I made so far. And then I think I am mentally, emotionally prepared and ready to join the community again, be part of the community again, and be part of the solution rather than the problem. So positive outcome of this meeting will be great. It can be either I know I'm fully aware that I'm not allowed to go to MSU, the minimum security units, because of my federal judge's attention, my federal ICE hold. That thing kept me from going to minimum the last time I talked to you. So if I was to stay in Faribault, I will be doing the same thing I've been doing, staying on the positive side, still working with RJ, being part of the RJ committee. I'm about to start facilitating Thinking for a Change again. I am sitting in different groups. I'm facilitating my own group with the as a certified peer recovery specialist. We got our own recovery group that we work with on Friday nights. We got our Friday morning group that we sit in with one of our therapists from Willow. And then we're going to start interviewing people for another two groups that we're going to be starting within the next few weeks. We got so many people that want to join these groups. They see the benefits. So all of these things that I am involved in are mentally, emotionally prepare me to join the community again and be part of the community once more and work in any possible way that I can to stay with the recovery community, be part of that community. There's so much need outside. My brother-in-law, he's a 9th grade school teacher, and he has, as a school teacher, he sees the damage that drugs are doing with kids. So he has his own groups, support groups, all recovery groups, SUD support groups. My plan is to be part of that community, even though I never had issues with drugs. I never had issues with alcohol. Now that I've been part of these groups and sitting with these groups, I understand their struggle. And I tell the guys all the time, I mean, don't isolate yourself to the support that you can get from guys that understand you. I mean, those of us who never had issues with drugs and alcohol, I don't understand your cravings. I don't understand what you're going through, but I'm not going to take you to the bar. No, look for this type of support. We're not going to lead you back to the lifestyle that you were once part of. So all of the things that I'm involved with especially with the certified peer recovery specialist, that thing opened doors for me that I won't be able to accomplish otherwise. Because sitting in groups and participating with these guys and having the one-on-ones with my guy, you know, they tell us what they deal with, how they manage to stay clean and how they manage to stay in their path of recovery. And, they give us feedback on how these groups help him. So that just opened the door for me to, okay, no, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do because I'm helping people and at the same time I'm helping myself. With emotional issues, mental issues, whatever other issues are there, you know, being part of these groups is going to keep me on the right path once I get released because, you know, you have a huge support group. You don't have just one person, one therapist that you can talk to. You got a whole group of supporters that understand and know what you're going through.
That's helpful. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, we've had the chance to meet before at your initial review hearing.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit or share a little bit about like all that you have been through? I think as I recall, when you came in, you really couldn't speak English and you were
Not at all. None.
and just talk about just that transition and just really how you began to see and understand your the criminal lifestyle, the gang stuff, all of that was happening, and then the transition, the changes that you've undertaken in your life over the course of time.
I didn't grow up in the criminal environment. It was a very what you call it, a conservative, Catholic conservative family that I grew up with. The whole town was basically the same. So I was introduced to the criminal mentality when I arrived to Minnesota. Some of the guys that I shouldn't say I had to, but some of the guys that I used to hang out with because of the language barrier, they were involved in partially using, partially distributing, and everything that comes with dealing drugs. I wasn't a full participant. I was right along with some of the guys. And those were the individuals that were part of my crime. And then, so in my mind, I didn't have the criminal mentality. If I'm explaining myself, I didn't grow up with that mentality of carrying weapons, using drugs, drinking, and doing all that stuff. I came to the U.S. as a visitor. I came to visit two of my uncles that were in Kansas. I had plans of going back to Mexico right away because I was going to join the military and learn how to fly airplanes, make that into a career. So I had a plan for my life. I came to Minnesota to visit one of my cousins that was here. Haven't seen her in years. I overstayed my stay. I was supposed to go back shortly after. This crime took place in a house that I was living at that time. That's where Mr. Vasquez lost his life. And then when I got to St. Cloud, I still had that clear mentality, you know, I'm not a criminal, I'm not a part of the criminal life. Unfortunately, still St. Cloud was extremely isolated, you know, groups with groups. So you had to stick with your own groups and they were segregated, extremely segregated. That's why I was like, you know, I was invited to join the gangs when I was in St. Cloud. The Hispanic population there was so small that the gangs needed numbers. It wasn't so much my physical appearance that appealed to them, it was just they needed numbers. So that's when I made my decision. I don't have any kind of support in the streets because I didn't have any family in Minnesota. My family was all in Mexico. I used to write and I used to call and do those kind of things. So I had to make up my mind. And then my boss came to me and he told me, "You're up for the raise for in my job, but because you are not involved in education, I can't give it to you." So I'm like, okay, this is the opportunity. I'm like, sign me up. Because at that time, I didn't know where to go, who to get a hold of. He signed me up for the education. I got there, stayed there all the time. I was in St. Cloud. I got to Stillwater, and I got my GED right away. From there, I'm like, I need to look into what other options this place has to offer. The welding class had openings, so I signed up for it, completed the program, and I'm like, this is awesome. I need to find more. So unfortunately, Stillwater only had a welding class and the cabinet making class. When I graduated from the welding class, the cabinet making was full. So I stayed in the welding class as a tutor for 4 years. And then eventually had to leave. The new policy was implemented to where I had to leave my job. So I went to the second floor of the building. It was a tractor assembly building that we had over there. I was assembling bulldozers then. So learn a little bit about the mechanics of the heavy equipment. And at the same time, I was still looking for other programming, things like that. The welding, a fork operator class gave me the option of the opportunity to sign up for it. I got certified as a fork operator. I wasn't expecting the transfer to the minimum facilities. When Ms. Dorsey, my caseworker at that time, told me, I was kind of surprised, and I thought she made a mistake. I'm like, they don't transfer people in my situation to the minimums. So, this new thing is coming up where we're going to start transferring you guys over there. When I got to St. Cloud, I didn't speak English at all. So my teacher was like, I can only keep you here for an hour. And then because I don't have a lot to offer you. So when I was in St. Cloud, I started looking into what else can I do? When I got to Stillwater, I'm sorry, I was asking what else can I do? What other programs can I take? When they gave me the option of going to a medium facility, my caseworker was trying to send me to Lino to do the PFA. Because I had too much time, they denied me that. So this was the only option. And I'm kind of glad it was a blessing for me because I got to Fairville and I found out that there's a bunch of educational programs they have to offer. So I signed up for the drywall installation class. And from then I went through everything that our higher education has been. Did the cabinet making, heavy equipment, carpentry, floor covering. And then I was waiting for the computer class. Unfortunately, COVID took over this place and they canceled all of those things. Our computer class was shut down for good. Our teacher left. And the last time I asked him, they told me that he wasn't coming back. So since 2018, I started asking and writing kites to the education department to see if it was possible for me to join the mechatronics class. Because I don't have a social security number and I don't meet the criteria for the Pell Grant. So they told me no. And then I asked him, what other programs am I allowed to participate in? Because obviously if I don't meet the qualification for the Pell Grant, and they told me that there was none, I did everything that I was allowed to do. At the middle of 2023, our education director, Mr. Bonnerap, he got a hold of my name, and then he found out that I've been asking about these programs for 5 years by then. So he had an interview. He set up an interview with Dr. Palombo from MCTC, and we talked about it. We went through the whole list of the qualifications required to enter the college program, and it's like you don't meet the criteria. He's like, but let me take your information with me. We do have other options. So he took my information to MCTC, and they gave me a scholarship. So that was a huge blessing for me because in the back of my mind, I always had that positive mentality. What can I do to better myself? I didn't grow up with a criminal mentality. I don't want to go back to the criminal mentality. I told the gangs in St. Cloud, I'm like, no, I'm not interested in being part of your group. I have no need for this type of popularity. Let me do my thing. I want to better myself. I want to do things that will benefit me. With all of the expectations that my family had from me when I was in school, as you can imagine, I was extremely embarrassed and ashamed of myself because I didn't get to do what they were expecting me to accomplish. So I'm going to show them that I can still better myself, even in this place. I have to take advantage of everything the DOC has to offer, education-wise. And last May the 13th, I graduated from the college program with an Associate of Arts, Social Liberal Arts. So that was the biggest accomplishment so far as of today. And it was thanks to what Dr. Palombo had to go through, and he made sure that I was that I got a scholarship. He told them everything that I've done, and my grades, my scores, and all of the other programming, and my positivity, and the fact that I've been discipline free all these years. So he brought up all of those things to the committee over there, and they're like, yeah, this would be a perfect candidate for these scholarships. They gave it to me, and I was able to graduate with honors last May.
Congratulations on that. And I also know that you have served as a tutor too, right? Didn't you do tutoring for a while in education?
When I was in Stillwater, I was a tutor for 4 years for the welding class. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a program over there, a training to be a tutor properly, look into the needs of the guys, what they need, how can you help them, and all of those kind of things. So when I went through the training, it was I believe all morning training, twice a week. I think it was a 2-day training that we went through. So I was a tutor for the welding class, which I love the class. I love the joy. I love the job. And working with the guys, it was awesome. It was amazing. I was forced to leave. Otherwise, I would have been able to stay there all the time I was there.
Okay. Thank you for that. Do you, you've talked about the fact that, that you have a release plan and awareness that you will be subject to deportation upon the board granting, if and when the board grants parole,
Yeah.
you'd be subject to deportation.
Yeah.
And it sounds as though that you have had conversations with family and have a plan for what that would look like. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. The information that I brought to you last time we met is still there. When I talked to my family and I told them about this meeting that we were having, I told my mom, I would like you guys to write a letter of support again, like we did before, because the last time my mom was writing the letter, and one of my cousins just happened to walk in there, and she asked, what is this for? So my mom explained to her what we were going through, what we want, the review that we were going to be having, and she's like, "Can I write one?" She's like, "Yeah, absolutely." Next thing you know, a whole bunch of my cousins and my uncles, and they all got a wind of it. And that's why I had so many the last time. This time I asked my mom, I would like you guys, just you, my dad, my sister, my siblings, just to write one because all of the other ones are still there. She's like, I talked to all of the guys, and yeah, they are still here. Everybody's still here, and everybody is willing and available to help us with whatever needs we're going to have once we get there. As far as job and housing, one of my uncles, he owns little tractors, and he takes contracts with local farmers, and that's all the work. He's like, I got a job for you as soon as you get here. One of my cousins, she's the safety director, one of our the safety officer in one of the silver mines in the state. She's like, yeah, I got a job already waiting for you when you get here. Her brother, he works for an insurance company. He's like, yeah, as soon as you get here, I got a job waiting for you. One of my aunts, she's a she's the finance director in our private school. She like, as soon as you get here, I can accommodate you somewhere in here. Her husband, he's a school teacher in the same place. He's like, yeah, as soon as you get here, we got something waiting for you. My sister found a lot of the information that you guys have is addresses from local businesses that my sister either knows the owner or the general manager, and they know, family, friends, they know about my situation. And they're like, here's my information, send it to him. As soon as he gets here, we're willing to sit down and have a job interview. And it varies. It goes from local businesses, warehouses, to dentists, doctors' offices, and everybody's pretty much willing to have a job interview and sit down and see what skills I can offer and where can I actually get a full-time job. My sister's friend, her best friend, she's a psychologist. And she's like, yeah, I'm here, I'm open, and I'm willing to have a one-on-one with him as needed. I can be his personal psychologist, his personal therapist. So whatever, issues he's dealing with, we can have a phone call, we can have a Zoom visit, or like, I'm open and willing to have that kind of responsibility, that kind of support for him. So my parents' house still there, still available. That's the address that I would like to get approved to be released to. And yeah, everything is pretty much set up for me to get back into the community again.
Thank you for that. I'd like to just this time turn to your support person here, and thank you for being here today. And I want to open the floor to you to provide your thoughts, and then we would move to the board being able to ask questions of either or both of you. So
Awesome.
give you the
Are we
floor.
going to Caddy?
Yep.
Look, well, hello. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. So my name is Caddy Frink. I am a woman in long-term recovery. I am the director of programs at Minnesota Recovery Connection. That's the organization that gave the training to the Faribault Department of Corrections peer recovery specialist training. I want to just give you a little tip. I have to read off of a Post-it note because this is a long acronym. So we had the Bureau of Justice Assistance put together we call it the COSUP grant internally. So it's the Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant Substance Use Program, COSUP. Okay, just had to get that out of the way. And so when we got the honor of doing this training for the Department of Corrections, Faribault in August of 23 was one of the classes that we did. We started out in Moose Lake and did a couple of other Department of Corrections, and then went to Faribault. And Francisco, as well as I think 19 of his fellow, I'll call classmates, were part of that class, the first one at Faribault, doing peer recovery specialist training. I, first of all, the honor of being able to train men and women in the Department of Corrections who want to do this training, which means that they want to bring it to the greater community, is probably one of the greatest gifts that I've had in my career. I've been with Minnesota Recovery Connection 8-9 years. I've been training now for about 7 years. And when I see individuals that fill out an application, write a summary of statement, and we have probably 3 or 4 times the class or the applications that it can attend the class, I know what's happening in these classes is going to be meaningful. So Francisco, when he was in the class, as well as being in a college class and had to take a week off of his college class to be in my class, I call it my class, our class at Minnesota Recovery Connection. To me, that's a double dedication because he was willing to miss a week of school to come and do this. And the beauty of what I have encountered with the training with all of these men and women who have been doing this is that it is a desire to give back to the community. And I think the community can be within the community of the DOC, but it also is a greater community that they can bring some of this lesson, some of this learning, some of this support out to the greater community as well. So I talk about the inside and the outside community. And when I hear from we have the training that takes place, and then we go back into the facilities on a bi-monthly-ish revolving calendar to follow up with the men and the women. But when we follow up at Faribault, these men get together and they are so encouraging, so supportive, so helpful. And Francisco, with all of this intelligence that he has and this learning that he's done for himself, is one of those minds that's in the back of the class that is really just like he's digesting it and then comes out with great commentary and things that have been done. And the fact that they've started what we call an all recovery meeting, which is different from an AA meeting. It's based on mental health, physical health, spiritual health, and emotional health. And what it does is, rather than follow a tradition, it follows, how are you? Who are you? How are you doing? And one of the things that I think Francisco has really taken into account, as well as many of the other men and women, is that we have two of these and we have one of these. And this listening is sometimes much more important than giving advice or giving help, giving facts. It's really what's going on with you. And when Francisco tells us about the fact that they have two meetings, they have a day meeting on Friday and an evening meeting on Friday. The day meeting is the higher risk group, and they have to attend to the needs of the group versus going in with like a lesson. I come at them with a lesson, and then I ask for their feedback in it, and everybody gives feedback. And what Francisco's been telling me, along with Bonga, who is his co-chair in this meeting, as well as maybe some of the other gentlemen, is that they know how to listen now, and they know how to be compassionate and have empathy for the struggles that are truly happening within the community there. And hearing the pain, hearing the hurt, hearing the potential isolation, listening to what people have to say. And to me, that is the essence of the peer-to-peer work that Minnesota Recovery Connection does. As a small nonprofit organization, we're based on peer-to-peer services, education, and advocacy. And that's what these men have taken on. And that's what Francisco has really taken to heart when he tells me about the success of the Friday evening meeting, where guys break down and cry. Now, y'all have been in the DOC for a while. Tears,
Yeah.
they're not on the forefront a lot. That takes an individual who's running a meeting to let somebody actually feel and say, it's okay to be in this space safe and be willing to like open up a little bit. And maybe in that opening up, one can heal and one can change one's mindset like Francisco has. He doesn't have a criminal mindset. That, from what I'm hearing today and what I understand, sometimes bad things happen to good people, and regardless of the circumstances, good people are many times lie deep within us, but we're surrounded by trauma and drama. And what happens is that that's the loop we get caught in. And so if these men and Francisco can sit in a room and watch men really open up and share and have this sometimes group conversations or one-on-one conversations, that's magical. Because he doesn't just change the life here in this community of Faribault. The men that he talks to and the men that take the certified peer recovery or take the peer recovery specialist class, then have had the opportunity to get certified. That information and that messaging goes back out to families and friends and community members, even if it's just a little whisper of something that they heard. They said, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's not a weakness, it's a strength. It's okay to just shut up and listen, because sometimes we all just need to be heard. And that's what Francisco and all the men have taught me, and the women that we've trained. And that is, in the environment in which this community in which they're in, it's really about caring and giving back, sitting down, talking, but listening. And I literally could cry, and I know that sounds weird, but I could cry because when I see the individuals that have gone through this class and their heart pour out to us when we come and visit and do our recap visits, it is amazing how the change has taken place. And we just had a meeting today earlier about when these individuals take this class, Monday, Tuesday, they're still like, regardless if you're in your community or out in the regular community, like, who are you? What are you? I can't trust you. What the nah. Wednesday, they're like, maybe you're safe. Thursday, wow. Friday, woo! Because what's happened is a community has been built. And when we have community, we have more. And Francisco tells you all these family members that are willing to give him a job, help him with his mental health, keep his physical health safe, keep him out of any potential risk factors. That to me shows the integrity of a man who deserves the opportunity to have the next part of his life. I'll call myself as a 62-year-old woman. I got lots of nexts. He's got a next. He can give back. He can make a change. And so I could go on for hours, but I'll stop there. I have just been on the pulpit and I'm giving the floor back to you.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. And thank you for what you've done. And the peer recovery specialist program has been really a great addition and is making a difference in the facility. So thank you for that. With that, I would just open the floor to board members to ask questions of either Mr. Dominguez or his advocate.
I may have missed your comments on this, but it looked like at the last hearing, you were directed to have contact with the Mexican consulate about what would happen upon your release from Minnesota. And I know at one point you said you learned the consulate doesn't have anything to do with deportation. Have you gone beyond that to find out what likelihood there is of your being deported? And if so, what would happen once you were deported?
Yeah, that's correct. I did contact the Mexican consulate, and I talked to one of the reps over there. And then I was asking him, this is what I asked him, I would like your office to write a letter so I can put in my file so you guys can have access to on what your involvement is on my removal of the country. He is like, none. Like, we have no part of it. This is just between you and ICE. He's like, we are not involved. We're not contacted. We don't have anything to do with it. He's like, I'm going to have a meeting with the commissioner in a few days. He's like, I'm going to discuss this with him so you guys are aware of our involvement, which is none. When I was in Stillwater, an officer from ICE came to see me. And then he is like, we have two options. We can fight the case. We can argue the case for you to stay in the U.S. Or we can sign the paperwork. And he's like, because you haven't committed a felony against the federal government, we will be putting you on the airplane within 48 hours. He's like, legally, we cannot hold you for more than 48 hours because coming into the U.S. illegally or being in the U.S. illegally is not a felony against the federal government. So he's like, as soon as the DOC releases you, my office will be informed and we will be there in the morning to pick you up. We'll bring you to our facility. You'll have a face-to-face with a federal judge to make a decision on that. And he's like, if you sign the paper within 48 hours, we'll make sure that you are on the airplane on your way home. And that was the first and the last time I talked to any of the ICE officers. After that, another one came to see me, basically the same thing. He was somewhat unaware that I had already seen somebody. So we went through the same thing, fill out the paperwork. I signed the paper to be deported. So that process has been done. That process is already done. All I will have to do is go in front of the judge. And yes, I will. I agree to the removal of the to be removed from the country. And if that thing is still there, that's what's going to happen. I haven't heard or I haven't contacted anybody from ICE. I don't have their contact information to see what the process is. But for what I see from other individuals that get deported, the process is still the same. The day you get released, they come, they pick you up, take you to the holding facility, process you, and then you're on the plane. Within 48 hours, you are back in the whatever part of the world you're from. And we see people going from all of different parts of the world. It's not just to Mexico, to Central, South America, some of the African countries, some of the Asian countries, and they all have the same process.
Mr. Dominguez, just related to that, when you had talked to them, was there, and we've had a couple other people that have been in this situation, just relative to getting an ID prior to a Mexican ID prior to deportation, so that when you get back, that stuff is happening. Was that part of the discussion at all?
No.
So that would be one of the things, because there is no doubt that you will be subject to deportation, as you point out, and as you sign that waiver for removal. And so, if and when the board grants parole, that will occur. But I think to the extent that that you could have tried to obtain that Mexican ID card prior to removal, it just could be beneficial as you go back.
What I know from other individuals having deported to Mexico, there's an office at the border from the state that picks you up, and they give you a paper copy of an ID, a valid ID. So basically just for transportation issues. Right. So you can get in the airplane, you can get in the bus, you can get in the train, whatever your transportation is going to be. And they do give you a piece of paper, basically a Mexican ID when you get to the border. So right now, for what I know, it's still there. But this doesn't happen until you get to their office. Once the U.S. hand you over to the Mexican authorities, that's when they take your picture, take your information, and all of that takes place. And that's when they hand you a valid ID. Okay.
We can look into that. I mean, I just, to the extent, if that works, that's fine. If sometimes it can be nice to have that accomplished. And I know we had one other man who was in this situation and was able to work with the consulate to get an ID prior to, so that it was just as smooth as when he arrived back in Mexico. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have just a couple questions. In the psychological assessment, you were given a violence risk rating as low moderate because of an external locus of control. What does that mean for you? I
don't know I don't know if I understand that question. Will you be able to break it down for me?
Well, I'm just telling you what I read in the report. Did you read? Did you see that?
Yeah.
What did that mean to you?
I'm thinking that one of the things that I talked to Dr. Spaniel about it was that at the time of the crime, I was somewhat gullible. So I think I saw myself as dependent on other people to help me, make decisions and things like that. And that's what got me into hanging out with the guys that I was hanging out at that time. Even though I had no plans of staying in Minnesota for the few weeks that I was here, which turned into a few months. I can't remember how long I was here. I think that's what I mean. I mean, like, I had to have other people help me guide myself. And it was mainly because of the language barrier. So I did depend a lot on other individuals to guide me through the cities, where to go, how to get this, how to get the other groceries and the basic things that I needed. So I have grown so much, and it wasn't like that when I was back home, because I've been so independent all the time. From when I was since I was a little kid, school years, I was fairly independent to where I didn't need help guiding me through making decisions and things like that. The fact that I had a plan for my life of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, and I was on the right path all the time until I got to Minnesota and I started hanging out with not very friendly individuals. I think that's what Dr. Spaniel was understanding out of our conversation.
Thank you. And I wasn't clear. Did you do the crime? Did you murder the victim or did you not? I couldn't tell from some of the statements you were making in the reports.
Yeah, I was, should I call it an unwilling participant? I wasn't fully aware that the crime was about to happen until after it happened. My vehicle was used. So, and then the house where I was living, that's where the crime took place. That's where the Mr. Vasquez was invited to come and visit with us. The weapon was found with the person that actually shot Mr. Vasquez, with the fingerprint and everything. And that's why the original charge in my case was aiding and abetting, not the actual person that committed the crime. So being in the house when it happened, you know, all of those things made me a participant of the crime. But the actual shooter is a other individual that, as far as I know, has never been prosecuted for this crime.
Well, and the other question I had was, I know you said you don't have a background as a criminal at all.
Yeah.
But there was a statement in here about, and I think it came from DOC reports, that you had 17 different aliases. How did you manage to get 17 since you came to Minnesota?
Yeah, that was, I have no idea how I got 17. When I was in St. Paul, we were stopped by a police officer because we were driving like 3 o'clock in the morning. We were coming from, what do you call it, concert, a live concert. And then I was driving and I didn't have a license. And one of my friends, one of the guys I used to hang out with, was with me in the vehicle like 3-4 days before he left his ID. My full name is, the Ramirez last name is actually not mine. That one was added to my name because this is my cousin's last name. So my full name is Francisco Dominguez Hernandez. That's my birth certificate name. You guys have access to my birth certificate. And then all of the Franciscos are called Panchos, P-O-N-C-H-O. That's a short name, and I have no idea how we ended up with that name. If your name is Francisco, most people will address you as Pancho. That's how people knew me in the streets. And when in the police report, there was somehow, it was a Poncho, P-O. Mine is P-A, I'm sorry, P-A, Pancho. There was another name on the report as Poncho, P-O-N-C-H-O. And then the other 17, I have no idea how they ended up in the report. When the investigators were looking for me, most people didn't know me by my name, by my full name. They just knew me as Pancho. And that's the only name that I know that people were aware of.
Did you see that in the report?
Yeah,
though?
I saw that.
Did you ask anybody where that came from?
That was one of the questions that I had with my old case worker, Ms. Brunner. And we can find any information on how they ended up with 17. This was a discussion that the first time I saw it, I think it's in my Dr. Spaniel's report. That's where I saw that information. On the actual paperwork, on the actual report from the county, there's the Francisco Dominguez Ramirez, which is the one that they had. Well, they added the Ramirez to me because when they interview my cousin, she gave them her information. Investigators automatically assume that that name belongs to me. And since the Hispanic community, we usually have our first name, middle name, and last names on our valid IDs. And then I got that one. Juan Manuel Dominguez Hernandez, that was a name that I gave to the police officer when I was arrested, when I was stopped that one time driving without a license. And since I didn't have any ID or anything, you know, that's automatically stay on my file on the report that he wrote in there. And
Just
the
to
other
say,
seven,
just to say it, just that it's
Thank
not
you.
uncommon for
Yeah.
there to be a lot of different names that get confused in police records too. We see it regularly. So thank you for
up
that.
to the time when I talked to Dr. Spaniel, this is the only one that I was aware of, the two full names, and the Poncho, which somehow people tell them that I was Pancho and they spell it as Poncho. But on this thing, and there's several dates of birth. The 82776, that's the one that I got from Saint Cloud. And I'm assuming this one came from the county jail too. My actual one is 72976. And when I was interviewing the county jail, I didn't speak English at all. So somehow there was a miscommunication between me and my interpreter. And the other two, 5667, that is the one that, God, I wish I remember his name. That's the date on the ID that was found in my vehicle. That was the date. And this particular individual, I was taken to Dakota County because this particular individual was wanted in Texas. And they wanted to ID me to make sure that it wasn't me, the person that was wanted in Texas. So I ended up in Dakota County. They ID me. They verified that I wasn't the person that was wanted by Texas. So
Mr. Dominguez, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
There's a lot to all this name stuff and how things get entered into the system.
yeah.
Any other questions from board members? Mr. Dominguez, I just want to, before the board begins discussion and deliberation about next steps, I want to open the floor to you for any final comment before the board does this.
Looks like Ms. Kenny has a question.
Yeah.
Can I make my greatest apologies have to go to another
Yeah.
appointment.
Not
But I want to just say, this dude is rocking. I think when he moves to this next community, he's going to make a change with people because I've seen the change in him. I have full faith that you all know what you do. I'm in my little world out here in the recovery community. So what I see is an honorable, good, incredible, fantastical human. So I leave that to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me have this opportunity.
I thank you for being here and thank you for being a support to him.
Absolutely. Francisco.
Thank you, Kenny.
Yep.
So just Mr. Dominguez, just anything that you would like the board to know before we do deliberations?
One of the things that I was emphasizing during my graduation, I was called all of a sudden to do the commencement speech. And after working for our psychology department as a mental health SLS mentor and mental health clerk, I saw what they do, how they work with people, and the good that the therapists have to offer to the individuals that go through the treatment program. And I was so glad and so thankful that I did the Minnesota Recovery Connection training. As of today, I still have no idea who signed me up for it. Nobody will take responsibility for how my name ended up on their list. But I'm so glad I took it because this is one path that I would like to follow. You know, I would like to fully get myself involved in the treatment facilities and work with this community. And the change that I see our therapists here in Fairville make on the individuals that go through the treatment, that inspired me so much into being part of the solution rather than being part of the problem, because people automatically assume that, and we see this all the time, you know, we get out, we don't have a job, we don't have money, we don't have stable financially, we're not financially stable, and we want to go back to what we used to do before, which people assume that we all sold drugs. I had no plans whatsoever on going to any of those things. I want to keep that same positive mentality that I always had and be part of the recovery community.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
And with that, I'm going to close the discussion, and during board discussion deliberation, we will not entertain questions or allow interruptions. And with that, I would open the discussion to the board.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
It sounds like he can't really move so long as he's got this detainer, and it's just a matter of going to his parole date, and then he'll be, which is February of 26, and then he'll be picked up by the feds. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct. I mean, we do have would have the ability because he still remains on in a facility, even a minimum. And so if he were to do a program there, that could be, it could be possible, something that we would direct. It, generally speaking, would not. But, I think that would be something that we would look at. But for the most part, the standard would be that he would remain in medium behind the fence up until his parole date, minimum parole date.
Thank you.
Just for purposes of discussion, I'm gonna move that we would grant Mr. Dominguez parole effective February 1st, 2026. This would be conditional upon his continued positive involvement at the facility and remaining discipline-free, at which time he would be turned over to officials from ICE and subject to the deportation process. That's the motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, to the motion, Board Member Bray,
Yes.
Board Member Larson,
Yes.
Board Member Ramstead,
Yes.
and Schnell votes yes. Mr. Dominguez, just want to acknowledge the work that you've done, and I hope that you can take all that you've learned and developed, and as you say, turn that into positive and good as you go forward and as you have there. So thank you for that, and we wish you well.
Thank you so much. I would like to appreciate you guys for taking the time to sit down and go through this review with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Okay. We will now be moving into, we have a couple of in-person hearings with folks that are on work release. So take just a second to get that set up.
Always forget, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Rebecca Holmes Larson, Director of Hearings and Release and the Supervised Release Board. We are here today to review Mr. Leon Perry, who's present with us at Central Office, along with his advocate, Mr. Russell Bellinger. Thank you both for appearing here in person today. We appreciate that. Here with me at the Minnesota Department of Corrections Central Office is our Commissioner and Chair of the Supervised Release Board, Mr. Paul Schnell, along with board members Christine Bray, board member Cheryl Ramstead, and also behind you on the screen is board member Andrew Larson. Thank you. Our records indicate that on July 8th of 1995 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, an off-duty police officer saw Leon Perry fire gunshots at a vehicle in a parking lot. The police officer chased Mr. Perry down and arrested him. The victim, Brian Evan Thomas, died from gunshot wound to his back and one to his head. On November 16th of 1995, Leon Perry was sentenced to life imprisonment in Hennepin County District Court after having been found guilty of the offense of first-degree murder. Mr. Perry had an initial review by the Commissioner of Corrections and his advisory panel on July 12th of 2022. At that time, he was continued for 3 years and allowed the opportunity to transition to minimum custody. On August 6th of 2024, a non-appearance file review was conducted, and it was decided that Mr. Perry could transition to the work release program. Today's review by the Supervised Release Board represents his third review after serving approximately 30 years of incarceration. Mr. Perry's parole eligibility date occurred on July 7th of 2025. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board. Commissioner.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Normally I would start by just asking you what did you like to see happen today, but I wonder if you could just provide a description of what the last 3 years, in particular, how work release has been being out in the community and what that transition was like for you.
So are you asking how was being at Red Wing prior to being on work release, or just
that whole
from the
transition?
last hearing I had
Yeah,
with you?
the whole transition. Yeah.
Well, I found it interesting, having gone so long without anticipation on transitioning period in the first place. I found it quite interesting. I was happy for the opportunity. Took hard work to get there, took a lot of planning, took a lot of coming together and putting things together to even get to that point, as far as being allowed to transition. But it was good for me. The waiting wasn't, but I had learned over the years how to wait. I wanted to always put emphasis on the importance of me being prepared. So that's what I continue to do, prepare for the yes. So that's what I did while I went to the board in 23. I continued to help them transition other people into the positions that I had while I was in Moose Lake, a recession, what they call a recession, for people to come over and take over some things. I had a lot of positions there. So I wanted to make sure that the good that was going on there would continue. The process and the progress would continue, that it was left in good hands, because things I touch, I want to turn out right. I want to be a blessing wherever I go. So that's what I worked on, continuously touching lives and changing mine at the same time, meeting new people and finishing out programs I was in. I was in C-Tech, so I wanted to make sure I got all my certifications. I was in college at the same time. I wanted to make sure I got as close as I could to finishing up my bachelor's degree. I'm saying I would have been finished if I wasn't recommended to go to C-Tech. So I continued in that. I started a father support group. So I wanted to make sure whoever took the group over granted how it should and gave the help that was needed. I was on the Restorative Justice Council. I wanted to make sure that the restorative process continues to look the way it needed to look for it to have the effect that it's supposed to have when we initially started it in 2004, 2006. I wanted to make sure that I prepared my mind and my family for something different. And I also wanted to prepare for a little bit more freedom because I've always been behind a wall. And it was even hard, but exciting to transition there to Moose Lake from Stillwater, having been there for so long. So that was different. Because with freedom, a little bit more freedom comes a little bit more excitement, but you don't want to get overly excited because you still ain't got no yes about what you can do. I sat there 8 years. So until I actually seen something instead of heard something happen, then, I was still in the same place I was as far as, just stay consistent, keep doing what you're doing, keep helping where you can help. But when I did get a chance to go to Red Wing, I was very happy about that because I wanted to go down there and get my special engineer's boiler license. So that's why I chose to go down there. Michelle Smith came to see me. I wrote you a couple of times like, hey, man, what's going on? You told me I'll be leaving, man. You know what I'm saying? But when I did get to go, I enjoyed it. It's good for me. Had a chance to go out into the community, something I hadn't been, something I didn't feel a part of, you know what I'm saying? Somewhere I didn't feel I had a voice at. But I had an opportunity to go out into a community and meet some people and find that people didn't really see me how I thought the world may have saw me. Because what they see initially is who's in front of them before they hear the story. But even after they hear the story and after you show them, after you introduce yourself, have opportunity to do things with them as a community, then they get to develop their own interpretation of who you are. And you don't really have to say unless you're asked or unless you want to share. Yeah. So I got a chance to go to communities that I've never thought I'd go to, way out here, man. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes there's the only Black person out there, man, but I ain't had no problem with that. Because I'm meeting people that own farms and things of that nature. And we're building community centers and putting roofs on things and putting windows in things and feeding kids in these little towns and going out and cutting down trees and clearing trails. I never did no stuff like that. I'm from North Minneapolis. I ain't cutting no trees. I might have cut some grass if we had some grass, but I got a chance to do that type of stuff. And it was different for me. You know what I'm saying? I got a chance to drive big tractors, get on there and mow the whole front of the facility and stuff like that. And drive Kubotas. I ain't never drove on no Kubota, nothing like that. So these are opportunities. So I don't take for granted. This stuff probably y'all do every day. For me, it was an opportunity that I ain't never probably would have never got. So it was cool for me, you know what I'm saying? Get a chance to, it's only 40-something people down there at Red Wing. So have opportunity to, really get to know the guys there. Wasn't really no services or anything like that. So I've asked Salvation Army to come down there. I'm a believer all day, every day. So I trust God for everything. And I need him where I'm at with no services there. So I asked Salvation Army to come down there. They've been with me from the time I came to jail till now. So they showed up for me. Any programming that they had there, I felt was necessary. I got part of it, did that, completed it. You know what I'm saying? It's important. I continue to put stuff on my mind so I can pour in other people too, So I did those things. The biggest thing was, the visiting was different, more contact, Had my biggest friend come up, his family was from Red Wing, his grandmother. So when he came up, I had a chance to see him. Enjoyed that. They did things different a little bit out there, in Red Wing. So it was good for me. It's different for me. Then I came and saw y'all. I was over non-appearance, but I was over and then I waited. And y'all said I can go to work release. So that's what I did. I went to Life Rebuilders. That's where I've been at. It's been different, But I ain't had no expectation because I had a purpose. So purpose sometimes got to override what you expect. So I went in intentionally. You know, I had these plans. You know, I showed y'all my release plan. At my 20 year, I showed y'all a plan. At my 27 year, I showed y'all a plan. My plans don't change. I'm here to help. You know what I'm saying? But I'm also here to get my family back. You know what I'm saying? Meet my kids, my children, my grandchildren, my siblings, parents. You know what I'm saying? Find me a career, see where I fit in out here, learn how to market myself. That's why I took so many different things and trades and things of that nature. So I'm able to give me a good job. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, that didn't, you know, I went to the bridge when I got out. Went to Life Rebuilders, got over there, it was different. The community had changed. I'm familiar with Minneapolis, you know what I'm saying? Community don't look nothing like it used to, man. So it was different for me. But I was cool with that. Change is necessary. I think not changing can be destructive. So embraced it, you know, went to work release at the bridge, took 3 buses. I ain't took a bus since 1986, but I took 3 buses all the way to Roseville to the bridge every day. I don't miss no work. I ain't miss no work in the 28 years I was locked up. Okay, man, I ain't miss no work, man. Went to work. From there, you know, I'm learning how society moving out here, the temperature, you know, the tone out here. But still trying to build, you know what I'm saying? I need to put my family back together. See my children, my kids grown. My children were little. All my kids in their 30s now. Or just finna turn 30. My youngest will be 30 in a couple weeks. So, you know, got 12 grandkids. Trying to figure out how to be best dad continuously possible. But at the same time, be this grandfather too that they don't know, you know. For me, I still been knowing Russell for a long time when he came in. He's the reason why I'm here right now. Because when Tom Roy was commissioner, I used to go to Russell's program when he was in there. He'd come up. I asked Russ, this had to have been like 2012, 2013. I said, man, I need you to bring Tom Roy up here. I got to holler at him. Came in, I sat right next to him. I said, Tom, I've been here 20 years, man. What I got to do, get up out of here, man. He said, make me do my job. I want to propose. Show me how y'all want to transition up out of here. Give me some step down, something. So me, Ron, Barry, education director, we sat down, and it took almost 2 years, but he accepted what we wrote, man. He started transitioning people out. End of 14, beginning of 15, started transitioning people out, sitting in the meeting, people with life sentences and stuff like that, because we hadn't been going anywhere. So he kind of the reason, you know, really bringing them. Well, he wasn't coming up in there, you know. So created an atmosphere and a space for us to, you know, meet college professors and things of that nature, and hold real conversations. And then not just what's going on in the prison, things like that, because there's life outside them walls, even though inside those walls, it's real stuff going on, but it's real life happening out here too that I was still a part of. You know, I raised my children from in there. You know, I grew up in there. Yeah, I might have been mature when I came to jail, but I grew up in there. So to get out here and still be able to be part of these circles, I don't miss no money over here with him, with Circle of Peace over there. I don't miss going to Salvation Army on Thursdays, you know. I don't miss no work neither. When my job ended February 11th, February 12th, I started working at Emerge, community development, helping people who are in the same set of circumstances I am. If you ain't got no felony, you can't get no job that, you know, can't help you. So we couldn't help y'all because y'all ain't got no felony. If you ain't got no felony, can't get no help. We help people transition with whatever they need. Jobs, housing, education. I didn't have no computer skills when I got out. I knew how to fight my case because I fought my case from the day I came to jail to the day I left. So I learned how to use computer like that as far as filing briefs and motions and things of that nature. Went to school, be a paralegal, so I can understand the law and things of that nature. But we helped them with digital literacy. I learned how to use a computer doing digital literacy training. Been doing it since February. Learned some stuff at the bridge, but when I got to Emerge, Really learn some stuff. Learn how to do resumes and things of that nature. Put a real resume in, make sure it passed through the ATS and stuff like that. And went on a few job interviews, got my license, got me a car, doing everything I need to transition out. But the biggest thing I got back is my family, my children, my community. They were there for me. They accepted. They were waiting on me. So that was good for me. Got a chance to see my father for the first time like a little over a month ago in 30 years. Last weekend, I had my son. It was first time my son had both his parents with him since he'd been born. These things is monumental to me. They may not mean much to other people, but this stuff matter to me because this is what I've been waiting on. This is what I've been praying for. For my mother's not to cry no more. I have a smile on her face, I've been having an opportunity to talk to my little cousin too, whose father it was. He's 30 now. It was only 6 months when that's happened to Brian. My cousin had a chance to see me out, but he sat down and talked to me about, how his mom and him and his siblings, lived in fear. They had to move all the time, put stuff on the doors and stuff like that out of fear, what I'm saying? And just let them know, man, we found I'm here now, I can help you, whatever you need. We're all on this healing process together. And whatever it is you need to heal, let's do that. His mom passed away in 2023 after my hearing. Called because I wanted to tell her, they finna let me go to minimum. But she died from a broken heart, man. She had been having heart issues. She was sad because of the circumstance. She didn't want her kid's father, to not be here. But she didn't want to keep getting abused neither. So it's been good for me. It's still good. The work I do is fulfilling. But it's also fulfilling to be around people who care about me, who still has hope with me. Be in these circles and sit with people and they hear my story and they think, hey man, that's amazing. But it don't seem amazing to me. It's just my real life. And if it can impact somebody, then that's what it is. That's the good thing about it. I just tell them, God couldn't do it, then can't nobody.
So I appreciated that walk of what this
3
transition has
years,
been.
yeah.
And there's no doubt that one of the things that's crystal clear is that, you've been, particular, Moose Lake and even before, heavily focused on programming and leading programs and developing them and encouraging others' involvement in them and those sorts of things. And you talked about, restorative justice as a program and its importance from a programmatic standpoint and from the perspective of what it means and its importance for other people. One of the questions I guess I would ask is, can you put the restorative stuff or justice work and things in the context of what that all means relative to the person whose life was lost at your hands?
Well, for one, restorative justice is not a program, it's a lifestyle. I believe if I played a part in the pain, play a part in the healing process as well, if I'm invited to. There's people connected to our choices, everything that we do. Either we live in the consequence of it or we live in the rewards of it. Prior to restorative justice even being created, I always wanted to create a space where people can grow, people can heal. It was brought to us early in 2004-ish because of the atmosphere in the community in Stillwater. So they came and got people who had influence to teach us this. They brought a guy named Mark Albright from University of Minnesota to teach us what restorative justice meant and what these practices do and how they can change not only our lives, but the lives of the community. Taught us empathy and responsibility. And if we played a role in it, we had a responsibility to it and an obligation to it. Everybody that's connected to your choices. So that's the position I took. If I play a part in the pain, or I play a part in any aspect of it, I need to play a part in the healing process, or whoever it is, in the growing process of them moving forward, if invited. I participated in Vocari, sat a weekend with a mother who lost her son, a daughter who lost her father, and a sister who lost her brothers, along with three other guys that were in the same or similar offenses as mine, and some people from central office, certain people who advocacy stuff, and we did that. And I had opportunity to do something with them that I did with my own victims' family. Apologize, you know what I'm saying? Even though I wasn't the one who did it, these people may have never gotten an apology from the people who, you know, took their dearly beloved from them. But I, you know, took advantage of the opportunity to say, you know, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. It should have never happened, you know. Learn how to, they trained us on how to write apology letters and things of that nature. Did Exploring Justice, 13 weeks sitting with college students that wanted to be prosecutors and attorneys and public defenders and things of that nature. So anything that had something to do with restorative justice, I was part of it. The curriculum, when Jerome and Tim created the curriculum, there wasn't a class that I didn't teach from the time it was created to the time I left the institution. So every 6 weeks, these are 6-week programs. We sit and we talk about what is justice, what is crime, what does your community look like? What does getting on your healing path look like? You know, can't put no time frame on healing. You know, you never know what life throws at you and what trauma is attached to these life circumstances. So you learn how to help people through that while you get through it as well. You know, I did a lot of introspection. You know, when people come in and tell their stories and things of that nature, you have time to sit down and you really think about the lives that are attached to your choices. Like, man, I made somebody's mother or son or somebody feel that way. You know, so I learned empathy. So where Brian is concerned, or his family's concerned, or his children's concerned, or my family, or his son, or my cousin, or whoever is concerned, I know what part I played in it. I take responsibility for the part I played in it. So if I can help you heal in that process, I'm here to do that, however long it takes. Because, I mean, healing is a process. Sometimes it takes more than one touch or two touch. You can't put no time limit or time frame on someone's healing. And you only can do what you can do. And the best thing is just to be honest, you know, transparent. So that's where I'm at with it. Restorative justice is a lifestyle. This ain't something you can just turn on and turn off, man. You know, it's got to be who you are, and it got to be invested a lot of time in doing restorative justice work. I'm always do it. I still do it. That's why I chose the job I have, because that's restorative justice is about restoration, building people back up who need restored. So that's been important to me, as well as myself, building myself back up. It's a process.
Thank you. I'm going to just turn to Mr. Ballinger, and then we'll open up the discussion for everyone in the board to just ask questions of either of you as we go forward. But thank you for being here, and just open the floor to you.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to follow that, but I met Leon, you know, over 20 years ago, going out to Stillwater, and I know of all of you from many of these years. I remember the commissioner when he was an officer in the neighborhood. So it happened that I had a pretty good outcome with a kid that was in trouble in the neighborhood, and he had never had a job. And his mother came and she was crying. She wanted me to give him a job. I told her I don't just have a job. And then someone quit that day when they came in. And that kid said he had been in prison for 5 years, and he said he was going to be a lawyer. And I laughed. He said, could I have an hour a day? And I told him, it'll take you an hour to get over there. I'm going to give you 2 hours, because the person whose job he took never came to work. So I didn't see it as a loss, but it wasn't too long after our Chief Justice, who I saw the other day, swore him in. And I thought, maybe I could do some good with people that are in trouble. And I got this job, and I went up there to Stillwater. And when I first got there, I think I was there the first time. I said, too dark. This isn't going to work for me. I can get another job. And but while I was waiting on that job, this group, I began to know these guys, and most of them were the same age as my sons. And I got caught up in it. And as time went on, I went from the volunteer coordinator to the vice president of that organization, and I learned everything that was going on from those guys in that group. Because I didn't know. I came in, I said, we're going to have a multicultural, we're going to have a mixed race group. They said, no, we don't do that here. I said, oh yeah, we're going to do that. Yeah, we don't eat together. I said, have lunch at least once a month. And there were, I mentioned this to you, I think the last time I was before you, that I've done assessment over 200 guys and women in our justice system. And I'm not coming in here for all of them, but there were those that I could see were on a path. And I started an organization of my own, but Amicus kept sending me out. And I felt like that was my group. And so over time, I decided I can wait a little bit longer till they can get out and come and take over this thing that I've started now, because I'm trying to be retired like 15 years ago. And they begin to come out. And I was really impressed when Leon showed up with the kid who's no longer a kid. He was 18 when I matched them as friends. And now he's a great big tall guy I think he's a teacher. And there they are still together after all these years. And our group on the outside is looking like that group did on the inside. And as there are kids there, there's a kid that comes who's as young as 8, and then there's a woman, her daughter's here, who's over 90. She loves it. And I watch those folks that you have given the nod to come back out are all there, and they're running and putting their arms around those folks, helping them into their chairs, helping them get out of their chairs, telling them that they don't want to do this or they don't want to do that. And those kids are listening to them. I was waiting on this. I thank you for this. It was the help that I needed. Pardon me for that. And you will see me about a few more, but the things that I've learned over my retirement period have been the best, show me it was the best work that I had all my life. It was my best work. Didn't get paid for it. It was supposed to last for 4 Mondays in a row. This past Monday was 730 meetings we've had. And my folks are all showing up. We're not just a community meeting anymore, we're a family. So if we got problems, it's a family problem. You're all welcome to come and join us. We have a delicious dinner. I can only say that the last time you seen me, a fella had 6 months before he was getting out. When he got out, he was right over there with me. And last few weeks, we've had over 100 people each Monday. And everybody's taking it back home to their countries where they come from. Yeah. And hopefully some will be able to come with me to go and help them. I really don't know what else to say about Leon, because I think you know, I can't say any more than he's, you know, she's like, it's family to me. So it has been that way for a long time. I think that's all I got to share.
Thank you. With that, I would just open it to any members of the board with any questions for either Mr. Perry or for Mr. Ballinger.
Mr. Perry, I have, honestly, it's more a comment than a question. Something you said earlier on really struck me, and I think reflects, you know, how seriously you take this. You know, you were talking about, you know, all of the effort that you put into making sure that these programs are being delivered properly and correctly. I mean, I think when I hear you say that, that tells me it's about the long term and continuing to help others more than just about yourself. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and really give you credit for really taking your role so seriously. I mean, that's just really kudos to you. Like I said, I hear that, and I draw a lot of inferences from hearing that sort of communication. So just an observation that I wanted to make.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think anytime you have an opportunity to have somebody's attention, to have their ear, then you have an opportunity to gain their heart and their trust too. So I just wanted to be the people what I didn't have when I first came in. It's hectic in there. It was hard as a 22-year-old to come into a place that you're not familiar with and learn how to navigate a system, you know, that is not nurturing, you know, to grow on the offense instead of live years on the defense, and also create a space where other people can grow with you. Because they're going back home into these communities where my family lives, and I don't want my family to be no victim of poor handling, because that's what happens when you come to prison, you get handled poorly. So let's grab them when they come in and give them something to think about, you know, and hopefully we can say something that can change and create some space where they're safe, even for just a few hours. That's important to me. If you have somebody's attention, give them something they can use, you know what I'm saying? Just something wasting nobody's time.
Thank you. Anything else? So, Mr. Perry, just before we talk about like the next steps, and we've seen your plan, which is, as you point out, has been in place for a long time. Is there anything that you would like to say before we begin the deliberations about next steps?
Yeah, I mean, I had great ideas about how I wanted my life to look. Let me first say I have a great appreciation for y'all doing this. You know, we ain't had no board in a long time. So to have something like this come back and give us the opportunity to have a voice. Sometimes you can't wait for this. You know? I've always wanted to have opportunities for people to hear me and my experiences. So I appreciate you guys creating a space like this. But it's more than a plan for me. I have a purpose, and I'm gonna walk in that, irregardless of, you know, how this turns out. I still have a purpose that I need to accomplish some things, and I'm in the process of accomplishing those things. I just need y'all help to do that. There's opportunities that have been presented to me that I haven't been able to take advantage of while I sit in these circumstances still. As far as continuing to help in my community, as far as the work I need to do, as far as, you know, continuing to change my life and grow to who I want to be. So I'm not where I want to be yet. You know, I had planned on being retired by the time I was 50. I ain't started living till I was 52. I lived while I was in there. I'm not saying I didn't live while I was in there, but now I have opportunity, you know what I'm saying, a chance to do a lot of things that I wanted to do, you know, so I need y'all help doing that. I'm still on this healing path, and there's some people who are attached to me and my choices that are healing too, and I can't help them heal the way they want to heal with these restrictions on me. So I'm asking you to help me help not only myself, but those who are attached to me get what they need. You know, my community, you know, those, you know, who are coming for support, you know, I want to be that support. You know, those who got expectations of me that need me to be there to help them with whatever it is they're going through that I took them through, I may not have took them through. I need to be there for them 100%. So I need y'all help doing that. You know, my life is committed to this type of work. Just what I do every day. I want to go to church, man, you know. Not just when I fill out a pass and get to go. This is what I do, you know. I haven't had a chance to do a lot of stuff. My whole routine changed when I came out here because I got to live in the parameters, you know. I've had this ankle monitor on me since March of 23, you know. Whatever it takes for me to get to where I need to get to. But I understand that that's for people on 10 supervised release, and I get all of that, you know. When I take this next step, whenever given the opportunity to do so, I want to take me a bath, man. I ain't had no chance to take a bath. Sit in the tub and, you know, soak without this thing on my leg, man. You know, want to get my own, been working on getting my own home. Some things I want to accomplish as a man, you know. I had an opportunity to help my daughter build a deck on the back of her house. I redid it, me and Emerson and a couple other guys. Been mentoring Emerson since I met him. Young man does marvelous things out here in this community, man. Him and some guys came along, helped me. I say, man, my daughter said I can build this deck. I ain't never did it. Help me, you know. I went over there, used my 8-hour pass and my 6-hour pass for 3 weeks in a row and redid my daughter's deck on the back of her house. I ain't never did it.
Is it safe?
Is it safe? Absolutely. I got some pictures of it if you want to see it. But it's awesome. All we got to do is stain it now and get the stuff out the way. But I can only do it on my passes, you know. So I got kids. You know. So Yeah, we still working on that, but yeah, it's safe. Looks nice. She loves it. Just because she said I could do it. I hurt myself, back, everything, but I did it. Got it done, it's done. Looks nice. Yeah. She's doing some remodeling. I was part of that. But it's more than that. Our life has changed, you know. When I changed my story, I changed their story too, man. You know, that's important to me. So, getting a chance to meet these grandkids, man. You know, bought my grandson a fishing pole because he want to go fishing. You know, I ain't want to just buy him no toy. I want to create some memories with him. You know, I ain't never took none of my kids fishing. So I'm gonna take my grandson fishing, you know, bought him a chair to sit down in and all that, you know. So there's people's lives connected to me. I'm asking y'all to help me help them heal too. You know what I'm saying? That's all. I ain't asking for nothing else. Y'all can help me with that. I don't need nothing else.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll close that part of it, and I'm gonna just make the jump here, and I'm gonna make a motion just that we would grant parole, and that parole date be set within 60 days. That would just allow for agent assignments. We get a refer this off to, end up going to get an agent assignment, get the release plan approved. And so if it can occur before that, great. But within that 60 days, move you to parole, and with the conditions to be established by HRU. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a couple of seconds. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I do. I know that they have phase 2 ISR, or phase where you can live at a halfway house, but yet live at your home. You know, I would like something like that if possible.
But I would, there's some challenges around that just programmatically, but you know, we'll see what we can do about either moving this forward or what's there. But I think that was explored, just so you know that.
Oh,
but there's
okay,
some
okay,
challenges around
okay,
that. But
okay. Well, I'm up for the
yeah,
challenge.
we're gonna get you. We're gonna get you there.
Yeah, for
We heard the plea, and so with that, to the motion, Board Member Bray, Board Member Larson,
Yes. Board
Member Ramstead, and Schnell votes yes. Congratulations. Parole's been granted. As soon as we can get that process, you're good to go.
I just want to thank y'all.
Yeah.
I just want to thank y'all. Let y'all know I appreciate it. It's not been easy. It's not going to be easy, but it's necessary. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but you're doing good stuff too. So thank you for that.
And if you know anybody coming home, you know what I'm saying, send them over there to Emerge. We got whatever help they need. Believe that.
We'll mention that if we have these people going.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I actually got some, I want to give y'all my business card too.
He's really working it hard.
Yeah, well,
On behalf of
Commissioner, appreciate you, man. Here's my business card. If them dudes coming home, need some help, man.
Yeah.
Send them over there. We got whatever resources they need. They want to get a career or anything.
Yeah, they're good. I've been meeting with some of the leadership folks.
Appreciate you. Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
My mom's. Yeah.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Rebecca Holmes Larson, Executive Officer of Hearings and Release and the Supervised Release Board. We're here today to review Mr. David Doppler, who is present with us at Central Office, along with his advocate, Richard McLemore. Here with me at the Minnesota Department of Corrections Central Office is our Commissioner and Chair of the Supervised Release Board, Mr. Paul Schnell, along with board members Christine Bray, board member Cheryl Ramstead, and on the screen, board member Andrew Larson. Our records indicate that on April 9th of 1995, David Doppler shot a man in the head and undermined an undetermined number of times. The shooting took place at the public access on Little Black Hoof Lake in Crow Wing County. On April 14th of 1995, at approximately 13:47 hours, the Crow Wing County Sheriff's Department was notified that a body had been found near the public access on Little Black Hoof Lake. Responding officers found a male victim who had been shot numerous times. No identification was found on the body. On April 18th of 1995, the victim was identified as Michael Lee Sargent. On May 17th of 1995, Mr. Doppler admitted to special agents that he had picked Mr. Sargent up on the evening of April 9th, 1995 at the Red Roof Inn. Mr. Doppler further admitted that he drove to the area and that he stopped at the public access of Little Black Hoof Lake. Doppler further stated that both he and Mr. Sargent had gotten out of the car. Doppler then grabbed a gun that was underneath the seat and shot Mr. Sargent an indeterminate number of times. Mr. Doppler then left the scene and went home. On June 7th of 1996, David Doppler was sentenced to life imprisonment in Crow Wing County District Court after having been found guilty of the offense of first-degree murder. Mr. Doppler had an initial review with the Commissioner of Corrections and his advisory panel on June 1st of 2022, at which time he was continued for a future review. On July 2nd of 2024, Mr. Doppler was allowed to transition to a minimum custody facility. At another review, he was granted the opportunity to transition to the work release program on April 1st of 2025. Today's review by the Supervised Release Board represents his fourth review after serving approximately 30 years of incarceration. Mr. Doppler's parole eligibility date occurred on May 16th of 2025. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board.
So, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Well, how are you?
All right. Why don't we just start by talking a little bit about what the last little bit of transition here, moving from minimum, what it was like to be a minimum, and then what it's been like to be in work release.
Okay.
You can just make it green.
Yeah, I got you. All
There
right,
you go.
gotcha. So the transition from medium to minimum was, I would say, pretty smooth. There wasn't a lot of difficulties. Got into the ICWIC program right away, which you suggested. Worked on 2 different ICWIC crews. The first crew I worked on was tree removal in the city of Minnetonka, and the second one I moved to was the Habitat for Humanity. So I did pretty much the whole winter at Habitat for Humanity. We spent the majority of the time out at I forget now, the Jimmy Carter project, and building those homes. They had the big old golf course that they bought, and so I was fortunate enough to go out there and help do a lot of work on that project, and had a good time. Helped out and got some skills with some carpentry work. I think leaving from, I think that was kind of just my basic experience with minimum, was just the ICWIC crews. I pretty much just worked every day. There wasn't a whole lot of programming or anything going on in minimum. You're pretty much just working all the time. And then transitioning to work release, I ended up going to RS Eden, and things have been just amazing. The staff there have been more than helpful. They've been a true blessing in helping me through any things that might be some minor struggles or point me in the right direction as you try to navigate things like, medical appointments and, just getting around doing the things that you need to do as you're, not on the inside where you can just, write health services or whatever, but rather, you got to get out here and do these things yourself. So I think that anytime I've had any struggles with that, they've helped out a lot. But for the most part, things have been really, really good. It's been a good experience.
So what, and I'm just for the purposes of, because the board has not always had as much involvement. We have met with, I've met with you before. But can you talk about, if you were to be paroled, it's certainly your, while you have more freedom, more flexibility in work release, if you're to be paroled, that would continue. Can you talk about why you're not a risk to public safety and is going forward?
Why I feel I'm not a risk to public safety is, well, foundationally, I've spent the last 25 years just working on self, not just taking programs or getting certificates, but rather like really learning the lessons and the concepts and applying them to my daily life, as well as, and the board doesn't know, but going and taking things even further with restorative justice and building character and those things that I contributed to those programs. And when bringing myself up to a level where I felt confident in my healing and my development, help bring those lessons to the community and help really push guys towards that, towards those concepts and those ideologies. So, and in doing so, not just helping them, but helping to heal myself and all of those interactions with those guys. So I think foundationally, just being involved with these pro-social programs and cognitive programs and taking the lessons that we talk about in the classrooms and applying them to just everyday life, like we did with the sporting events, like when you would come and obviously they don't know about them, but like, we applied all of the building character concepts to everything that went on in the gym in Moose Lake for 8 years straight. So, and just using that as an example, that instead of just talking about these lessons, we lived the lessons and participated in them in events and everything else. So foundationally that, next I would just say that, I'm just today, I'm really, like, I feel really good about my future. And I think when I was 18 years old and this horrible tragedy happened, I didn't believe I had a future. And today, like, I see my future as being bright. And then lastly, I would say one of the biggest things is my support system. My support system is so solid, so concrete that my accountability partners, my family, like all of the people in my life, it's no one's willing to allow me to fail or be a threat to anyone.
So as you think about, I mean, and I don't know who's on, but unlike meetings that we've had in the past where it's just the commissioner and the advisory panel and the individual, now people who may have been affected by your offense have the chance to participate or watch these proceedings. What would you say if family members of your victim were watching, with Michael Sargent's family were watching today? What would you say to them? And to what extent have you experience remorse as a result of your involvement in his loss of life.
Yeah. I think that if I was, able to talk to Mike's family, I would obviously just express the deepest regret and remorse for all of it. I don't think that there's any words that I could say that could heal. I pray for their healing every day. I pray for them every day. As far as like, I feel like I'm a person who's about actions and not words. And I've just tried to say with my actions by claiming responsibility, by being accountable, and by changing the person I was when I was 18 and living a restorative life. And for me, taking those actions, specifically living a restorative life, to me, since there is no words, I just feel like that's just the way that I can show it, because I wouldn't know what to say. There's no words that could express it.
That this whole notion of, and I want to just be really crystal clear that you have done, and I've been up at your Moose, very active in a lot of those programs and really leading and encouraging people to be there and to engage. And but one of the things that that I'm struck by is, and again, I don't say this to shame you or anything like that, but there is this, we find ourselves in this strange position when we're here, in that there is, despite the fact that you have served 30 years in prison, there is an opportunity for, as you talked about, like a future, something new, something different. And it's not lost on me or on us that missing in that equation is that never will Michael Sargent or the people left behind have that. And how do you manage that, just internally, that angst that I'm guessing may come from that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's, I don't know if there's a place to like heal from that, from the knowledge of the harm that I've caused. Like, I don't think that will ever leave me. It's something that you think, like, there's not a day goes by that you don't think about it. I think that I've learned to use it as a positive in just keeping myself in check, to make sure that, like, every day I do the right thing. Like, every day I make sure that today I got up and I didn't harm anybody today. And because I don't see how anybody can heal from causing that amount of harm. So the only way that I can move forward in a positive way is just to use it as a way to say, you're never going to harm anybody again. And so it stays there, I don't know if that is articulating it the right way, but it's just the best way I can explain it to you.
I think, as we talked about before, when we met, was what you owe as a result of your participation, your involvement in taking in Michael Sargent's life, and the impact on his family is for you to live the best life possible. And part of that is certainly something that was reflected in the service that you did while you were at Moose Lake. As you think about your future, how do you envision service playing a role going forward?
Oh, well, I mean, we've already started doing the service. Just yesterday, Rich and I were at we're at an event where there's people struggling with housing right now, struggling with getting into homes. You know, they're facing homelessness, and we're out there in the community trying to provide resources and trying to help people. So, like, for me, there's no stopping. There wasn't like leaving Moose Lake and then just gave up on the, trying to be involved with the community and trying to be a blessing. That's going to be my commitment for the rest of my life, or as long as I'm capable of it, as long as I'm able to do it. I'm going to be in the community, finding whatever place will accept me to do that, as well as, the restored. Rich and I were just talking about a restorative element working with Hennepin County that we talked to one of the directors there yesterday at this event, and they're really looking for people to come in and start helping on a restorative level. So anywhere that I'm getting that opportunity, I'm gonna be there.
Thank you for that. Talk us through kind of what you're doing now, and then what your release plan would look like.
So what I've been doing now is before I left Moose Lake, I had gotten a personal trainer, sports nutritionist, and fitness coach certifications that had lapsed during the time when I had the continuances. I wasn't able to take courses to keep those up to date. So I had recently purchased, I had to re-enroll, and when I re-enrolled, they made me pay back or re-enroll at the full fees again. So I have about 8 months of those courses to get those certifications back up to date. Also bought some courses in just AI packages, just learning, AI. I kind of feel like that's really important right now with everything that's going on, kind of keeping up on technology. So when I'm not at work doing the housing navigation and outreach programs, then I'm on the laptop doing the courses. The other time I spend with my fiance Jamie's back there, and her daughter Ivy. She has an 8-year-old daughter, and then just with my parents, and so the free time I just get with family as much as I can, and but otherwise it's work and classwork, similar to what I've done for the last 25 years.
Right.
And then as far as like a plan, a plan would be I would like to parole to my parents' house and just do the phase 2 of ISR at my parents' house. And once completed on that, or however we transition through that process, then Jamie and I will be looking to get a home together, and at some point in the next couple of years, get married and make a family.
So talk a little bit about that. This is a newer dynamic, right? The engagement and all that kind of stuff. So talk us through a little bit about that. What's that been like? You go from being inside and having
So
that
like some
relationship.
history with Jamie and I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
history, and then what's that like to have
Yeah.
a significant relationship after being incarcerated so long?
So Jamie and I had been friends for a very long time. We talk about it and can't even remember how long ago we've been friends, but so we've been in each other's lives, not like fully in each other's lives during my incarceration, but we've known each other since we were young.
Like, how long have you guys known each other roughly?
Prior to incarceration, so over 30 years.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have family members who are friends, and kind of same neighborhood stuff. So we grew up in the same area and just knew each other. So kind of recently we just reconnected. Well, over a year ago we reconnected. And when we reconnected, we kind of just, it's kind of weird how you fall into place with people at a certain point in time in your life and you're kind of both in the same place. And that's just how it was for us. And then we just reconnected as friends, and then we just started connecting as we realized like just where we're at in our own lives individually, and like what we want for our future to look like. And that just brought us together. And she's just been amazing and supportive in a way that, I haven't really experienced in the past. So, yeah, I love her. She's been a true blessing. Moving forward, what was your question again about kind of moving forward?
What that, that, it was just that you basically just answered the question I was looking for. I'm gonna just open the floor to Richard here, and then we'll just open up for broader discussion. So thank you for being here. Just want to open the floor to you to provide your insights and thoughts.
Like opening a question, do you have anything particular you'd like me to respond to?
No, is this really what you'd like to offer or share?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's perfect. My name is Rich. Richard. I'm David's employer. I've known David for an extremely long time. My insight and my opinion on this is that at a certain point, right, the programming and the planning that the DLC preps their population for upon release should come into play. And that we should trust that the programming and the self-educating and the time that he spent away is going to be beneficial to him moving forward. I feel, once again, since you opened up to me, he's at a point where the certain restrictions and things that apply to people getting out are hindering his success and his future. So I do hope this committee decides to move him forward. Because I think that's the plan of life, as a community member and a member of a nonprofit. The goal is to build the community, one neighbor, one person at a time. So if he's not allowed to explore community, right, he's never going to get that growth that we want in our own neighbors. So I think it's time for him to move on to his next level or that next growth opportunity.
Thank you. And with that, I would open the floor to the board members to ask any questions of Mr. Doppler or McLemore.
I do have a question, and I'm sure you read the community investigation report. And I think the suggestion was placement in a residential reentry program for phase 2. I'm making that up. I think it was for phase 2. May offer substantial benefit, and then it goes on with that, why that might be a good thing for you. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
But that's currently what I'm doing at the halfway house.
Okay, so that isn't considered phase 2.
No, that would be considered phase 1. So I believe phase 2 is the ISR part of it. I think you're moved to. Am I wrong?
Phase 2 work release is still work release status, but at a different residence.
Yeah.
But it's still work release.
Okay, so it wouldn't necessarily be at your parents' home. It would be or it could be.
It could be.
Okay.
Depending on the rules of that halfway house and their phase 2 work release program. They have to be willing to
Allow it.
Yeah.
Because I'm currently at the transition house right now.
Yeah.
Right. So the next step would be to go to the residence of where you would be staying.
And so have you talked with, you're at reentry, I think, or
RSE?
Yeah, RSE. And so have you talked with them about doing phase 2 at your parents?
Oh, absolutely. They're here today. They're right back here, and we've had those conversations of what that would look like and what the expectations are. Yeah, we've talked about it extensively. My case manager, Ashley's right here, and her and I have discussed it at length. So I'm well aware of all the stipulations and everything that they expect from you while you're.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? Any, just in some of the previous stuff, there was no contact with your brother or uncle that were involved in the offense behavior, any contacts at all?
No, not at all.
And that would be something you would continue?
Absolutely.
And just to be explicit, your reason, I mean, beyond that directive being given to you, does that make sense to you?
No, absolutely.
And like, why does that make sense? Why does it make sense that we would not want, or that you would want?
You're talking about from your side or my side?
I'm talking about from your side.
Oh, okay. Understanding why you don't want the contact.
Yeah, understanding
Okay.
why I don't, but
Okay.
I mean, do you think that that's wise?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And as well, the board doesn't know, but as you and I have discussed at length, like, I don't have a desire to be in contact with my family because of their life choices. And I don't desire to be around anybody who makes those choices. So, but I also told you that, if there was ever a point where my family were genuine about changing their lives, I would be the first one there supporting that change. But while they're still living that life, I can't be around that. I just can't do it now. From understanding it from why you would put a directive on that. Well, I mean, I think the obvious answer is because they were involved with Mike's death. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Doppler, I want to, before we get into kind of a deliberation around next steps, I'd like to just open the floor to you and just provide an opportunity for you to offer any other comments to the board before we talk about what we should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the only thing that I would say to the board is that obviously we have never met before. I haven't met any of you guys, and we've never kind of been in this space, whereas I have with the commissioner. So I understand that you guys are kind of just getting an opportunity to know a piece of me today, which I wish I could present more or articulate myself better. But yeah, I'm just grateful to be here today and just appreciate the opportunity, and just hope that that you see that I've done well enough to this point that I can get moving forward with and get to my family.
All right, thank you. And with that, I'll close the discussion, and during board discussion, deliberation, we'll not entertain questions or allow interruptions. And so with that, I would just open it to the floor of the board. Any thoughts or?
Yeah, I just need clarification. So phase 2, we could still grant parole or not? And he would move to phase 2 automatically, or I'm a little confused about how that would work.
So I think there could be the option, I think, of phase 2 work release. That would be, and phase 2 work release really is an extension of work release where there is a work release case manager that's involved with them. They would be effectively at their release residence, and then followed by the program. And then you could continue on that status, and then look at either whatever conditions would need to be put in place. The one thing that does happen is that as we look at phase 2 work release, the distinction between that and intensive supervised release, if he were to be granted supervised release or granted parole, is pretty, there's a lot of similarities, right? Because it's the case management and phase 2 work release is really doing a lot of verification of where he is and what he's doing, and he would be subject to monitoring and many of the same conditions. So it is a way of extending, because we're not granting parole. So it's a way of just kind of ensuring. And, one of the things that is notable here is that, he has not been in work release status that long. I don't think. April 1st.
This is a natural progression, correct? That's the next step you want folks to take into phases.
Well, but that's a decision by the board, right? In terms of what and when that happens, how that happens is really the board's decision. So,
Of course, I'm just making sure but that's the goal for people to move through these incremental steps.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the would be the distinction or the core question. As you think about this, is that something that you have an interest in, or is it more just trying to get that information?
Well, it's clarification, especially given the last case, but yes, to your point, I guess I do have an interest in it because, and you said it best, I have never met you before. And I could ask you all kinds of questions that go back a little ways, but I don't think I don't care to do it at this point because you've come so far and done so well. So personally, yeah, I would like to see phase 2 work release.
Other thoughts?
Can I ask just a clarification question on that? Are you phase 2 work release with an established supervised release date, or just a continuance with phase 2 work release? I guess I'm just looking for clarification on it is all.
Well, if I were making a motion, which I didn't, it would be, I'd be fine with either, Andrew, and it might be phase 2 with a date. I don't know that I'd feel like we needed to meet again unless something came up.
Ready for a motion?
Yeah.
I move that we grant parole effective November 24th, which would allow him to have served more months on work release, and that he be moved to phase 2 in the interim. That was no reappearance necessary.
Okay. So this would really be that he would be given a date of November 2025.
I guess the 24 because it's a weekday.
Yeah, it's 26. It's and would be to transition him to phase 2 work release, which would effectively be at home, follow all the established conditions of work release, and assuming that he meets all those conditions, would be to transition him to supervised release or to parole status. So that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? The only point of discussion I would have, and I want to be really crystal clear about this has nothing to do with Mr. Doppler or Mr. Doppler's fiance, but oftentimes, and you've seen this happen where we've had people who are in relationships or whatever it may have been, and where we've tried to make sure that is as solid, because there's a lot of transition happening obviously for Mr. Doppler, and at the same time there's a lot of new in just being out, and there's a lot of new in a significant relationship. And so, I would just like to ask that, we would put in place some, and again, I'm not suggesting there's any problem at all. In fact, I know that this can be exceedingly helpful for people and supportive, but it also just is a reflection of transition. And I would like to ask that Mr. Doppler and to the extent there would be a willingness on the behalf of his fiance, which I hope there would, that there would be some just discussion about this change and all that goes along with this change in terms of their relationship as well as the reentry considerations. So that is just a thought that I would have, and wonder if if others feel that that's a reasonable expectation.
How would you enforce that? Would you require counseling?
Well, that's what I was
Counseling? I
wondering.
think that would be the only way you could really enforce that.
That's exactly what we've done in the past, where we've said, hey, just I'm not looking for any kind of anything extensive. I'm just saying, talk about what new looks like in terms of relationship and all that's going on in Mr. Doppler's life. And
We've already
No.
done that. Oh, I'm sorry.
so, and and just given that I mean, if the work release agent feels like that stuff has been addressed, so be it. But I just want to leave it out there as
Consider
something.
that a friendly amendment.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Excellent. Anything else that thoughts people have? Hearing none. And just to restate the motion, this would be that there would be effectively a transition to phase 2 work release with parole date being granted of November 24th to 25. Did you look and see if that's a good
Monday.
date? Okay. That would be the parole date. So to the motion, Board Member Bree,
Yes.
Board Member Larson,
Yes.
Board Member Ramstead,
Yes.
and Schnell votes yes. So that passes, and work release would make that transition of the movement to your folks and what goes into that. And so just work with the staff, and I guess the only message I would send with you is that you may feel that there's still this leash on you that you would like to avoid. And I would just say that, generally speaking, the moving from work release to parole as quickly, and I think that's part of what this decision is based on. That's certainly where I sat, was the fact that generally speaking, it is shorter than we would typically have. And yet at the same time, I think we want to acknowledge the fact that you are doing well by moving you into that phase 2 work release option. So just to be clear. Any questions about that? All right. Thank you, and I wish you well and good luck. All right.
We'll get you a letter that talks about it.
All right. Take care. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Take care. Good seeing you. Yeah, there's a correction.
It's just.
Okay. Take care.
Thank
All right.
you.
Take care.
This next supervised release board meeting is July 29th.
Yeah. All right. We just have a couple of other really quick business items here. First is just what has been distributed is the proposed schedule for meetings, for SRB meetings going into 26. And so you have that. Not surprisingly, staff have already been working on scheduling a lot of that. So that the calendar is quite full. But we just want to make sure you have it, and that will get posted up as well. Then, yes.
In light of, and I think, Becky, you answered part of this, in light of trying to consolidate because of financial things, do you have an estimate of the agenda for each one of those meetings? Will it tend to go longer, the number of incarcerated juries will have?
Can you
I
please speak into the
can't.
mic? We can't hear you on this end.
I am sorry, I turned it off.
So she asked if we could explain to the board members the length of the reviews and how many people will be seen. We can send you a list of how many people will be seen on each of these dates. We try very, very hard not to get up to 6.
Oh, okay.
And other than that,
So
because
it'll stay the same, Becky,
we're
unless.
really trying to keep those victim meetings in the morning. So everything is all on one day. So we try not to put too many, so the victim survivors still have the opportunity as
Good.
well. So it's looking similar.
Thank you.
And we
You're
had,
welcome.
on the budget side, we had looked at this and we made some budget adjustments so that we could, because the thing that happens is reducing the number of meetings really just pushes back opportunities for hearing. And I think this does speak to that whole notion of what can happen when we schedule shorter review periods. We end up with higher numbers of hearings, and it's hard sometimes not to, and there will be things that will come up around dispositions or those sorts of things, and violations or whatever. And as a, for instance, just to give an example, the Board of Pardons met yesterday.
Saw that.
And so in the Board of Pardons process, they oftentimes will look to defer cases or refer cases, even in some instances, cases that are typically would not be cases that would come before us. They're determinate sentences, but because they have the authority to change sentences, length, conditions, all of that. And I think in my conversations with the Chief Justice and the Attorney General and the Governor, I think that the part of the reason that they lean on that, going that direction in part, is because they want good correctional decisions being made by a board who does what this board is intended to do. And so that's where that comes from. And so we have one that got moved on to a board agenda that's going to trying to come quickly. And yet there are some things that we have to work out, like comprehensive risk assessment, the community investigations, which we have to do. And so we're going to be working with the Clemency Review Commission just to work through that process as we go forward. But we just wanted to make people aware of that.
Thank you.
Commissioner, if I could just
Yeah.
mention one thing to the board members. On the key where you see the green dates, those are backup dates for overflow. So hopefully we will not need those dates, but it was holds on schedules so they don't get occupied by other things, just in case.
So hopefully we're in a good place. And with that, I would move to action items, and that is looking for an motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 24th with one notable correction that has been made already, and that is the date was listed as the.
I'm sorry.
No, that's correct.
The May 30th date on the bottom of the first.
Oh,
page.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I had that at June 24th and it is corrected to May 30th.
Okay. So just that's already been addressed and fixed. So just want to be clear about that. And so with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
A second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. We'll do a voice vote.
Aye.
Aye. Is there anybody signed up for public comment? No public comment. The next meeting of the Supervised Release Board is Tuesday, July 29th, a few weeks away, 11:15 to 4:30 here at the DOC. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.